Ryan Carter held his 2-year-old son against his chest in the emergency room at 3 in the morning, Noah's fever burning through both their shirts, when the woman in the tailored suit walked past and stopped. She wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to notice her. But Elena Voss turned back, looked at the crying child, then at Ryan's exhausted face, and said 4 words that would unravel both their lives. "Let me help you." What started as a single act of kindness became a secret that could destroy a billion-dollar empire and a struggling father's last chance at stability. This is their story, a collision between 2 worlds that should never have touched. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story travels. Hit that like button and stay until the end. You won't believe where this goes. Ryan Carter hadn't slept through the night in 2 years. Not once. Not since the morning he'd found the note on the kitchen counter, Amanda's handwriting looping across the page in blue ink that somehow made the whole thing worse. "I can't do this. I'm sorry." 6 words. She'd left 6 words for their 6-month-old son. Now Noah was 2, and Ryan was 32, and he felt about 70 on most days. He stood at the bathroom sink in their cramped apartment, splashing cold water on his face while Noah babbled in his crib in the next room. The walls were thin enough that Ryan could hear Mrs. Chen's television through the plaster, some morning show host laughing too loud about something that probably wasn't that funny. "Dada!" Noah's voice rose in pitch, moving from cheerful to demanding. "I'm coming, buddy." Ryan grabbed the towel, pressed it against his face. The mirror showed him what he already knew: circles under his eyes dark enough to look like bruises, stubble he hadn't had time to shave, a haircut he'd been putting off for 6 weeks because $20 was groceries. He pulled on yesterday's jeans and a shirt that might have been clean 3 days ago, then went to Noah's room. His son stood in the crib, hands gripping the rail, his face breaking into a smile that made every sleepless night worth it. Dark hair stuck up in every direction. He'd gotten Amanda's eyes, that warm brown that used to make Ryan's chest tight when she looked at him. Now it just reminded him of what Noah would never have. "Up," Noah demanded, arms raised. Ryan lifted him out, pressed his nose against Noah's neck, and blew a raspberry that made the kid shriek with laughter. "All right, troublemaker. Let's get breakfast before I'm late again." He'd been late 4 times this month. Jerry, his supervisor at the warehouse, had stopped being subtle about it. "One more time, Carter, and we're having a real conversation." A real conversation meant getting fired, and getting fired meant the apartment was gone, and he couldn't let himself think past that point. Noah ate his cereal with the single-minded focus of someone who'd figured out that throwing the bowl got a reaction, but eating the food got results. Ryan drank coffee that had gone lukewarm and scrolled through his phone, looking at his bank balance like checking it again might make the numbers different. They weren't different. He had $412 until next Friday. Rent was $800, due in 3 days. He'd been waiting for the tax return for 7 weeks, and the automated message said it was still processing, which was government speak for "you're screwed, figure it out." Mrs. Chen from next door had agreed to watch Noah during his shift. She was 73 and spent most of her day doing Tai Chi in the courtyard and watching game shows. But she loved Noah like he was her own grandson, and she never asked for more than $50 a week. Ryan didn't know what he'd do without her. Probably lose his job and everything else. He dropped Noah off at 8:15, kissed his son's forehead, and promised he'd be back by 6. Mrs. Chen waved him off with one hand, already offering Noah a cookie that would probably spoil his lunch. The warehouse was 32 minutes away on a good traffic day. Today wasn't a good traffic day. Ryan sat in his truck, a 2004 Ford with a check engine light that had been on so long he'd stopped noticing it, and watched the minutes tick past on the dashboard clock. He'd left with 15 minutes to spare. He was going to be late anyway. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Final notice. Payment of $847 required by 5 p.m. today or service will be suspended." The hospital. Noah's emergency room visit 3 months ago, when he'd spiked a fever of 104, and Ryan had driven 90 miles an hour through red lights because his son's body had been limp and burning in the car seat. They'd given Noah antibiotics and fluids and kept him overnight for observation. And Ryan had signed papers he hadn't read because nothing mattered except making sure Noah lived. $847. He didn't have it. He wouldn't have it by 5. He could call them, beg for an extension, but he'd already done that twice. Traffic lurched forward. Ryan pressed the gas and tried not to think about the bills or the rent, or the fact that Noah's shoes were getting tight, and winter coats weren't cheap, and daycare cost more than the apartment, and he couldn't afford any of it. He made it to the warehouse at 8:52. Jerry was waiting by the time clock, arms crossed, expression flat. Carter. I know, I'm sorry. Traffic was... Save it! Jerry was 50-something, balding, the kind of guy who'd probably been handsome 20 years and 40 pounds ago. He wasn't mean, just tired. They were all tired. You got 2 strikes left. Use them wisely. Ryan clocked in, pulled on his gloves, and spent the next 8 hours hauling boxes that made his back scream. The warehouse was hot in summer and cold in winter, and exactly the wrong temperature in between. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, forklifts beeped. Someone's radio played the same 6 songs on repeat until Ryan wanted to smash it, but he needed this job, so he kept his mouth shut and lifted another box. Lunch was a sandwich he'd made last night, and an energy drink that tasted like battery acid. He ate in his truck because the break room was full of guys who wanted to talk about sports or complain about their wives, and Ryan had nothing to contribute to either conversation. His phone buzzed again. A different number. This is a courtesy call regarding your vehicle loan. Please contact us to discuss payment options. Ryan deleted the message. He'd deal with it later. Later had become his favorite time of day, the magical moment when he didn't have to face anything yet. He finished his shift at 5:30. His back hurt. His shoulders hurt. His hands hurt. Everything hurt in that bone-deep way that sleep never quite fixed. He drove back across the city, picked up Noah from Mrs. Chen's apartment, listened to his son chatter about his day in half sentences and enthusiasm that made Ryan smile despite the exhaustion. And Mrs. Chen made cookies, big ones. Yeah, were they good? So good, Dada. Noah's pronunciation turned it into so goo, and Ryan wanted to bottle that voice and keep it forever. They got home a little after 6. Ryan made dinner, spaghetti again, because pasta was cheap and Noah would actually eat it. And they sat on the couch together, Noah in his lap, watching a cartoon about talking animals that solved mysteries. Ryan didn't follow the plot. He just held his son and tried to calculate whether he could short the rent by $200 and still keep the lights on. The math didn't work. It never worked. At 7:30, he gave Noah a bath. At 8, he read 3 picture books in a row, doing all the voices even though his throat was raw and he wanted to sleep for 16 hours. At 8:20, Noah finally closed his eyes, his small body going heavy with sleep, and Ryan sat there in the rocking chair they'd bought before Noah was born, back when Amanda had still been there and everything had felt possible. He didn't move for 10 minutes, just sat there holding his son, feeling Noah's breath against his neck, steady and warm and alive. This was the only part of the day that felt real. Everything else was just trying to get back to this moment. His phone buzzed on the dresser. Ryan eased Noah into the crib, tucked the blanket around him, and checked the message. It was the hospital again. Payment deadline extended to 11:59 p.m. tonight. Pay online or call to arrange payment plan. 11:59. He had 4 hours. He still didn't have the money. He went to the kitchen, opened his laptop, logged into his bank account, and stared at the numbers like they might change if he focused hard enough. They didn't change. He had $412. The hospital wanted $847. The rent was due in 3 days. His truck payment was overdue by 2 weeks. His credit card was maxed. He'd already borrowed from everyone who would still answer his calls. Ryan closed the laptop. He poured himself a glass of water. He thought about calling the hospital, explaining the situation, asking for another extension. But what would he say that he hadn't already said? I'm a single dad. I'm doing my best. Please give me more time. They'd given him time. He'd used it all. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of someone's television through the walls. Ryan stood at the kitchen counter and felt the weight of everything pressing down. The bills, the exhaustion, the fear that no matter how hard he tried, it would never be enough. His phone rang. Unknown number. Ryan almost didn't answer, but it was 9:30 at night, and unknown numbers after 9 were either emergencies or bill collectors, and he needed to know which. Hello? Mr. Carter? A woman's voice, professional, crisp. Not a bill collector. They always had that apologetic but firm tone. This woman sounded like she was used to people listening when she talked. Yeah, who's this? This is Elena Voss. We met briefly 3 months ago at City General Hospital. You probably don't remember. It was a difficult night. Ryan's brain stuttered. Elena Voss. The woman in the suit. He did remember. She'd been walking through the emergency room at 3 in the morning like she owned it, and then she'd stopped when she saw him holding Noah, both of them exhausted and scared. She'd made a phone call, and suddenly a doctor appeared, and Noah got moved to a room instead of waiting in those awful plastic chairs. I remember, Ryan said. You helped us. I didn't get a chance to thank you. You don't need to thank me. A pause. Mr. Carter, I'm calling because I received a notification that you have an outstanding balance with the hospital for your son's care in March. Is that correct? Ryan's stomach dropped. How did she know that? Why did she know that? Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm sure you are. Her voice softened just slightly. I'd like to help. Help how? I'd like to pay the bill. Ryan stood there in his kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, trying to process what he'd just heard. You want to pay Noah's hospital bill? Yes. Why? Because you need help, and I'm in a position to provide it. She made it sound simple, like it was nothing. The amount is $847. I can have it processed tonight. I can't. Ryan's throat closed. I can't just take money from you. It's not taking if I'm offering. You don't even know me. I know you were in that emergency room at 3 in the morning holding your son while he burned with fever. I know you didn't leave his side. I know you're a good father, Mr. Carter, and good fathers shouldn't have to choose between medical care and rent. Ryan sat down at the kitchen table before his legs gave out. This is insane. Perhaps? Is that a no? He should say no. He should hang up, delete the call from his history, and pretend this conversation never happened. You didn't take money from strangers. You didn't let people you barely knew pay your bills. It was wrong. It was... Yes, Ryan heard himself say. Yes. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. I'll take care of it within the hour. Is this the best number to reach you? Yeah. Good. Have a good night, Mr. Carter. She hung up before he could respond. Ryan sat there, staring at his phone, his heart hammering. What the hell had just happened? Who was Elena Voss, and why did she care about his son's hospital bill? He pulled up Google, typed her name, and felt his stomach flip when the results loaded. Elena Voss, CEO of Meridian Holdings, net worth estimated at $1.2 billion. Youngest woman to ever run a Fortune 500 company, known for her aggressive business strategies and zero tolerance for failure. And she just paid his hospital bill. Ryan refreshed his bank account at 10:47 p.m. The notification popped up. Payment received. Balance $0. He sat there for a long time staring at the screen, trying to figure out what this meant. 3 days later, Ryan was loading boxes in the warehouse when his phone buzzed. This is Elena. Do you have time to talk? He almost dropped the box. He'd been half convinced the phone call had been a fever dream, some exhaustion-induced hallucination. But here she was, texting him. He didn't even remember giving her his number. Except he had. She'd asked if this was the best number to reach him, and he'd said yes. Ryan set the box down, pulled off his gloves, and stepped outside into the loading dock where the noise wasn't quite so overwhelming. Now? He typed back. If possible. He had 12 minutes left on his break. Yeah. Okay. His phone rang 10 seconds later. Mr. Carter. That same crisp voice, but warmer somehow, like she was smiling. You can call me Ryan. Ryan, then. How is your son? He's good. He's great. Thank you again for... You've already thanked me. That's not why I'm calling. A pause. I have a proposition. Ryan's grip tightened on the phone. What kind of proposition? I need someone I can trust for a project I'm working on. Someone discreet. Someone who understands the value of keeping things private. I'm a warehouse worker. I don't know what kind of project you're talking about. The kind that requires absolute confidentiality, Elena said. I need someone to help me with personal matters. Errands, logistics, things I can't delegate to my regular staff. Why me? Because you're not connected to my world, because you need the money, and because I think we could help each other. Ryan leaned against the metal railing, feeling the sun beat down on his neck. How much are we talking? 5,000 a month? Part-time hours? Flexible schedule? 5,000. That was more than he made at the warehouse, and she was offering it for part-time work. It was too good. It had to be too good. What's the catch? No catch? I need help. You need money. We both get what we want. This sounds... Ryan stopped himself. He'd been about to say too good to be true, but maybe it was true. Maybe Elena Voss just needed someone outside her corporate world, someone who wouldn't sell stories to tabloids or leak information to her competitors. When would I start? This week, if you're available. Ryan thought about Jerry and the warehouse and the time clock and 8-hour shifts that left him feeling like he'd been hit by a truck. He thought about Noah and Mrs. Chen and the rent and the truck payment and all the ways his life felt like treading water in the middle of an ocean. I'm available, he said. Excellent. I'll have my assistant send you the details. We'll start simple. I need some files picked up from my attorney's office tomorrow afternoon. Are you free around 2? Yeah, I can make that work. Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. She hung up and Ryan stood there on the loading dock, wondering what the hell he'd just agreed to. The attorney's office was in a building downtown that had a doorman and marble floors and the kind of lighting that made everything look expensive. Ryan felt out of place in his jeans and work boots, but the receptionist just smiled and handed him a sealed envelope when he gave his name. Ms. Voss said you'd be by. Have a good day. That was it. No questions, no explanations. He'd driven 40 minutes for a 30-second transaction. He texted Elena when he got back to his truck. Got the files. Where do you want them? Her response came immediately. Can you bring them to my office? I'll be here until 6. Meridian Holdings occupied the top 12 floors of the Sterling Tower. Ryan had driven past it 100 times and never thought about who worked there. Now he was walking into the lobby, giving his name to security, getting a visitor badge that felt heavier than it should. The elevator moved so smoothly he barely felt it. 40th floor. The doors opened onto a reception area that looked like something from a magazine, glass and steel and furniture that was definitely art and probably cost more than his truck. Mr. Carter? The receptionist was young, professional, her smile perfectly calibrated. Ms. Voss is expecting you. This way. She led him down a hallway lined with abstract paintings, past conference rooms with glass walls, to a corner office with a view that made Ryan's stomach drop. You could see the whole city from up here. The river snaking through downtown, the bridges, the stadium lit up in the distance. Elena stood by the windows, phone pressed to her ear, one hand gesturing as she talked. She wore a black suit that probably cost more than Ryan's monthly rent, her dark hair pulled back in a way that made her look sharp and untouchable. Then she turned, saw him, and smiled, and suddenly she looked human. I'll call you back, she said into the phone, and ended the call. Ryan, thank you for bringing those. He handed her the envelope. That was the easiest $500 I've ever made. Good, then you won't mind doing it again. She set the envelope on her desk without opening it. How's your schedule next week? Flexible? I need someone to pick up my dry cleaning Tuesday, take my car for service Wednesday, and coordinate a delivery to my apartment Thursday. Would that work? Ryan blinked. You're paying me $5,000 a month to do your errands? Is that a problem? It's just... He stopped, recalibrated. No problem. Elena studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she walked over to her desk, pulled out a checkbook, an actual checkbook because apparently billionaires still use those, and wrote something down. She tore off the check and handed it to him. $5,000. Made out to Ryan Carter, signed in neat handwriting. First month, she said. I'll have my assistant email you the details for next week. Ryan stared at the check. I don't understand why you're doing this. Does it matter? Yeah, it does. Elena leaned against her desk, arms crossed, watching him with those dark eyes that seemed to see too much. My parents died when I was 16. Car accident, no warning, no goodbyes. I ended up with an aunt who didn't want me, and I spent 2 years figuring out how to survive on my own. She paused. Someone helped me. A teacher. She didn't have to. She just saw that I needed it, and she helped. And I swore that if I ever had the means, I'd do the same thing. Ryan's throat tightened. I'm sorry. About your parents. Thank you. But my point is, I know what it's like to need help and be too proud to ask for it, so I'm asking instead. Let me help you, Ryan. It's not charity, it's just evening out the scales. He should say no. He should walk out of this office and forget Elena Voss existed, because this felt like the beginning of something complicated, and Ryan's life was already complicated enough. But he thought about Noah, about the bills, about the rent check he'd finally been able to write without feeling sick, about the fact that maybe, for the first time in 2 years, he could breathe. Okay, Ryan said. Thank you. Elena smiled, and it changed her whole face, made her look younger, less untouchable. You're welcome. Now go home to your son. I'll email you those details. The errands were easy, too easy. Pick up dry cleaning from a place that smelled like lavender and chemicals. Drop her car off at a garage where the mechanics called her Ms. Voss and treated the BMW like it was made of glass. Coordinate a furniture delivery to her apartment building, which was the kind of place that had a concierge and a private elevator, and probably a waiting list measured in years. Ryan did everything she asked. Showed up on time, followed instructions, kept his mouth shut. And every week, another check appeared. $5,000. Like clockwork. He paid off the hospital, paid the rent 3 months in advance, got Noah new shoes and a winter coat that actually fit, fixed the check engine light in his truck, started putting money in savings, actual savings, for the first time since Noah was born. He still worked at the warehouse. He wasn't ready to give up that steady paycheck, not when this thing with Elena felt too good to be real. But he cut back his hours, spent more time with Noah, stopped feeling like he was drowning every time he checked his bank account. And then, 6 weeks after that first phone call, Elena asked him something different. I have a dinner Thursday night. A work obligation. I need someone to watch Noah. Would Mrs. Chen be available? Ryan stared at the text. How did Elena know about Mrs. Chen? He'd never mentioned her. She might be. Why? I'd like you to come with me. His heart kicked. To your work dinner? Yes. As my assistant. I need someone there who isn't part of my usual crowd. Someone I can trust. Ryan sat in his truck in the warehouse parking lot, reading the message 3 times. This felt different from picking up dry cleaning. This felt like stepping into her world. I don't have anything to wear to that kind of dinner. I'll take care of it. Just tell me your size. He should say no. This was crossing a line. But he typed his measurements and hit send before he could overthink it. The suit arrived Tuesday. Charcoal gray, Italian wool, tailored to fit him perfectly, even though he'd never been measured. There was a note tucked in the box. Thursday at 7. I'll pick you up. E. Ryan tried on the suit Wednesday night after Noah was asleep. It fit like it had been made for him. He looked at himself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the guy staring back. He looked like someone who belonged at a fancy dinner. Someone who had his life together. He felt like a fraud. Thursday evening, he dropped Noah off at Mrs. Chen's apartment. She took one look at him in the suit and grinned. Very handsome. You have a date? Work thing. Mm-hmm. She didn't believe him. Noah and I will be fine. You have fun at your work thing. A black car pulled up at 6:58. Not a limo, that would have been too much. Just a sleek sedan with a driver who nodded at Ryan like this was completely normal. Elena sat in the back seat, wearing a dress that was simple and devastating at the same time. Dark blue, elegant, the kind of thing that probably cost more than his truck. She looked up from her phone when he climbed in, and her expression shifted into something Ryan couldn't quite read. You clean up well, she said. You told me my size without asking. I'm observant. She tucked her phone away. Ready? For what exactly? Dinner with some investors? Lots of small talk? Mediocre food? Overpriced wine? She smiled. It'll be awful. Just stay close and look like you know what you're doing. The restaurant was the kind of place that didn't have prices on the menu. Everything was mood lighting and linen napkins and waiters who moved like shadows. Elena introduced him as her assistant, and no one questioned it. Ryan shook hands, made polite conversation, and tried not to think about the fact that the guy to his left was wearing a watch that could probably pay off Ryan's truck. Elena worked the room with effortless precision. She laughed at jokes that weren't funny, deflected questions she didn't want to answer, and steered conversations like she was conducting an orchestra. Ryan watched her and realized this was her job, not the business deals or the contracts, but this performance. being Elena Voss, untouchable CEO. But when she glanced at him across the table, something in her expression softened, just for a second, just enough for him to see the person underneath the performance. They left a little after 10. The driver took them back through the city, streetlights sliding past the windows, and Elena kicked off her heels with a sigh that sounded too human for the woman who'd just commanded a room full of millionaires. "Thank you," she said, "for tonight. I didn't do anything. You were there. That's enough." She looked at him, really looked at him, and Ryan felt something shift in his chest. "I spend most of my time with people who want something from me. It's exhausting." "What do I want from you?" "Nothing." She said it like it was the most surprising thing in the world. "You just show up, do what I ask, and you never push for more. You're paying me $5,000 a month, and you're worth every penny." She leaned her head against the seat, eyes still on him. "Do you ever feel like you're just going through the motions? Like you're playing a part, and you've forgotten who you really are?" Ryan thought about the warehouse, the bills, the endless cycle of surviving. "Yeah, all the time." "Me too." The car stopped outside his apartment building. Elena sat up, slipped her shoes back on, the mask sliding back into place. "Same time next week?" "Yeah, okay." He climbed out, and the car pulled away, and Ryan stood there on the sidewalk, feeling like something had just changed between them. He wasn't sure what, but it felt important. The text started small, Elena asking about Noah. "How's he doing? Did he like the new shoes?" Ryan sending photos, Noah laughing, Noah covered in spaghetti sauce, Noah asleep on the couch with his favorite stuffed animal. Then they got longer. Elena talking about her day, the idiots she had to deal with, the negotiations that made her want to throw her phone through a window, Ryan telling her about warehouse drama, Mrs. Chen's attempts to set him up with her niece, the way Noah had started calling every woman mama, and it broke Ryan's heart a little every time. They texted at night after Noah was asleep and Elena was finally done with whatever corporate nightmare had consumed her day. Sometimes until midnight, sometimes later. Ryan knew he was crossing a line. This wasn't just errands anymore. This was something else. Something that felt dangerous and inevitable and completely stupid. But he kept texting her back. And she kept texting him. And one night, 3 months after that first phone call, Elena sent him a message that made his heart stop. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Do you ever think about what your life would be like if you'd made different choices?" Ryan stared at the screen. "Every day." "Me too. I think about it all the time, the things I gave up, the people I pushed away. Whether it was worth it? Was it?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I don't know anymore." Ryan's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He should say something neutral, something safe. Instead, he typed, "Do you want to get coffee sometime? Just talk. No work stuff." The dots appeared again, stayed there for what felt like forever. "Yes, I'd like that." They met on a Sunday afternoon at a cafe 3 neighborhoods away from Ryan's apartment. Somewhere neither of them would run into anyone they knew. Elena showed up in jeans and a sweater, no makeup, her hair down. She looked younger, more real. Ryan had left Noah with Mrs. Chen, promising he'd only be gone an hour. But 1 hour turned into 2, then 3. They talked about everything: Elena's ruthless climb to the top, the competitors she'd crushed, the board members who wanted her gone, Ryan's failed relationship with Amanda, the fear that he was failing Noah, the guilt that never quite went away. "You're not failing him," Elena said. "You're raising him on your own. You're working 2 jobs. You're there for him every single day. That's not failing." Some days it feels like barely surviving isn't the same as succeeding. Surviving is succeeding. She reached across the table, her hand brushing his. "Give yourself credit, Ryan." Her hand stayed there. He didn't pull away. And that was when he knew this wasn't just friendship. This wasn't just gratitude. This was something that was going to complicate everything. "I should go," Ryan said, even though he didn't want to. "Noah's probably driving Mrs. Chen crazy." "Okay." Elena didn't move her hand. "Can we do this again?" "Yeah, I'd like that." They started meeting once a week. Coffee on Sundays, sometimes lunch on weekdays when Elena could sneak away from the office. Ryan learned that she liked her coffee black, hated board meetings, and had a scar on her left wrist from falling off a bike when she was 8. Elena learned that Ryan sang off-key in the shower, could quote entire episodes of cartoon shows because Noah watched them on repeat, and still missed Amanda sometimes, even though he knew she wasn't coming back. And then 6 weeks after that first coffee, Elena invited him to her apartment. "Just dinner," she said. "I'll cook, or attempt to cook. No promises on quality." Ryan knew this was a bad idea, but he said yes anyway. Her apartment was on the 40th floor of a building with views that made his stomach drop. Floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture that looked like art, a kitchen bigger than his entire apartment. Elena was barefoot, wearing yoga pants and an old t-shirt, and she looked more nervous than he'd ever seen her. "I should warn you," she said, pulling vegetables out of the fridge. "I'm not good at this. Cooking. I usually just order in." "Then why are we doing this?" "Because I wanted to do something normal with you, something that wasn't—" She gestured vaguely. "Whatever this is." Ryan rolled up his sleeves. "Okay. What were you planning to make?" "Pasta?" She said it like a question. "I can work with that." They cooked together. Or Ryan cooked while Elena chopped vegetables and told him about a merger that was falling apart and a board member who was trying to stage a coup. He listened and stirred sauce and felt something settle in his chest that hadn't been there before. They ate on her couch because the dining table felt too formal. Elena tucked her legs under her and told him about growing up in foster care after her aunt gave up on her, bouncing between homes until she aged out at 18. Ryan told her about Amanda leaving, about finding the note, about the first 6 months when he'd barely held it together. "You did, though," Elena said. "Hold it together." "Barely." "Barely still counts." The sun set outside the massive windows, the city lights coming on one by one, and Ryan realized he'd been there for 4 hours. He should leave. Get back to Noah. Stop pretending this was anything other than what it was, a collision waiting to happen. But Elena was looking at him with an expression that made his breath catch, and he couldn't move. "Ryan," she said quietly. "Yeah?" "I'm glad you answered the phone that night." "Me too." She leaned in. He met her halfway, and when their lips touched, it felt like stepping off a cliff, terrifying and inevitable and exactly right. They broke apart after a few seconds. Elena's eyes were wide, her hand pressed against his chest. "This is a bad idea," she whispered. "I know. If anyone finds out, I know. It could destroy everything. I know." Ryan cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Do you want me to leave?" She closed her eyes, took a breath, opened them again. "No. Stay." So he stayed. Ryan woke up on Elena's couch at 2 a.m. with her head on his chest and his arm completely numb. The city sprawled below them through the massive windows, lights twinkling like something out of a movie he couldn't afford to see. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Mrs. Chen, probably wondering where the hell he was. He told her he'd be back by 9. He extracted himself carefully, trying not to wake Elena. She stirred anyway, blinking up at him in the darkness. "What time is it?" "Late. I have to go." She sat up, rubbing her eyes. Her hair was a mess. She looked nothing like the woman who commanded boardrooms and made grown men nervous. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to fall asleep on you." "It's fine." Ryan found his shoes by the door. "I just need to get back to Noah." "Right, of course." Elena stood, wrapping her arms around herself. "Ryan, about tonight. We don't have to talk about it now." "I think we should." Ryan stopped, one shoe on, the other in his hand. "Okay, what do you want to say?" Elena crossed the room, stopped a few feet away from him, close enough that he could smell her shampoo, something floral and expensive. "I don't do this. I don't let people in. My life is complicated and messy, and everyone wants something from me. But you—" She paused, searching for words. "You're different, and I don't know what to do with that." "I'm not asking you to figure it out tonight." "What are you asking?" Ryan pulled on his other shoe, straightened up. "I'm not asking for anything. But if this is going to be something, I need to know it's not just because you're lonely or bored or looking for a distraction." "It's not." Elena stepped closer. "I don't know what it is yet, but it's not that." "Okay." Ryan wanted to kiss her again, wanted to stay, wanted to pretend his whole life wasn't waiting for him across the city. But Noah was home, and Mrs. Chen was probably asleep in his rocking chair, and reality didn't pause just because something felt good. I really have to go. I know. Elena walked him to the door. Text me when you get home? Yeah. He left before he could change his mind. The elevator ride down felt longer than the ride up. The lobby was empty except for a security guard who nodded at him without interest. Ryan climbed into his truck and sat there for a minute, trying to sort through what had just happened. He'd kissed Elena Voss. More than kissed her. They'd spent hours on that couch, talking and not talking, and somewhere in the middle of it all he'd realized he was in way over his head. This wasn't just attraction. This was something bigger, something that could blow up his entire life if he wasn't careful. His phone buzzed. A text from Elena. Drive safe. Ryan smiled despite himself and started the engine. Mrs. Chen was asleep in the rocking chair when he got home, exactly like he'd predicted. He woke her gently, apologized for being so late, and pressed an extra $100 into her hand that she tried to refuse. You're a good boy, she said, patting his cheek. But you look tired. Get some sleep. I will. Noah was sprawled in his crib, one arm thrown over his head, snoring softly. Ryan stood there watching him breathe, feeling the weight of every choice pressing down on his shoulders. He was a father. That came first. Whatever was happening with Elena, it couldn't mess that up. He wouldn't let it. But when he finally fell into bed at 3:30 in the morning, his phone on the nightstand, he checked one more time to see if she'd texted again. She had. Thank you for tonight. Sleep well. Ryan typed back, You too. Then he turned off the light and tried not to think about how thoroughly everything had just changed. They didn't talk about it for 3 days. Ryan did his usual errands, picked up her dry cleaning, dropped off packages, coordinated with her assistant about scheduling. Professional, distant, like nothing had happened. But the texts kept coming. Late at night, after Noah was asleep, Elena telling him about a disastrous board meeting. Ryan sending her photos of Noah covered in paint after an art project that got wildly out of control. Small things. Normal things. Things that felt like they were building towards something neither of them had agreed to yet. On Thursday, Elena asked if he could come by her office to pick up some documents. Ryan showed up at 4:30, and her assistant waved him through without the usual pleasantries. He knocked on Elena's door and heard her voice call out, Come in. She was at her desk, phone pressed to her ear, looking like she wanted to murder whoever was on the other end of the line. When she saw Ryan, her expression shifted, just slightly, just enough. I'll call you back, she said into the phone, and hung up without waiting for a response. Hi. Hi. Ryan closed the door behind him. Your assistant said you have something for me? I lied. I just wanted to see you. Elena stood, walked around the desk. Is that pathetic? Little bit. She laughed. A real laugh. Not the polished one she used in meetings. I've been thinking about Sunday, about what you said. Which part? All of it. But especially the part about needing to know this isn't just a distraction. She stopped a few feet away from him. It's not. I don't know what it is, but it's not that. So what do we do about it? I don't know. Elena crossed her arms, then uncrossed them. She looked nervous. Elena Voss, billionaire CEO, looked nervous. I have a lot to lose if this goes wrong. My board is looking for any excuse to push me out. If they found out I was involved with someone, especially someone who works for me, I don't work for you. You pay me for errands. Semantics. They wouldn't see it that way. She took a breath. But I don't want to stop seeing you, so maybe we just keep it quiet. For now. Ryan should have said no. Should have walked out right then, protected himself and Noah from whatever disaster this was heading toward. But he looked at Elena, really looked at her, and saw something he recognized. Someone who'd been alone for too long, someone who was tired of being untouchable. Okay, Ryan said. We'll keep it quiet. Elena closed the distance between them and kissed him right there in her office, 40 floors above the city, where anyone could have walked in. It was reckless and stupid, and Ryan didn't care. They started meeting twice a week. Coffee on Sundays, dinner at her apartment on Wednesdays when Ryan could convince Mrs. Chen to watch Noah for a few extra hours. They talked about everything and nothing. Elena told him about the merger that was falling apart because two executives hated each other more than they wanted the deal to succeed. Ryan told her about the time Noah had flushed his only pair of work boots down the toilet and he'd had to show up at the warehouse in sneakers. How is that even possible? Elena asked, laughing so hard she had to put down her wine glass. I still don't know. Kid's a criminal mastermind. I'd like to meet him sometime. Ryan's smile faded. Elena, I know. I'm not asking. She set down the glass, looked at him seriously. I want to know the parts of your life that matter. And he matters most. He's the only thing that matters. I know. That's why I want to meet him. Ryan thought about it. About bringing Elena into Noah's world, letting her see the cramped apartment and the toys scattered across the floor and the chaos that was his actual life. It felt too real, too permanent. Maybe, he said finally. Let me think about it. Elena nodded, didn't push. That was the thing about her. She never pushed. She asked, she wanted, but she never demanded. It made it harder to keep his walls up. 2 weeks later, Ryan's truck died. Completely, catastrophically died. He was driving home from the warehouse when the engine made a sound like metal tearing itself apart, and then everything just stopped. He coasted to the shoulder, tried to restart it 3 times, and finally accepted that he was screwed. The tow truck cost $200. The mechanic called him the next day with an estimate that made Ryan want to throw his phone into traffic. $4,000, he told Elena over the phone that night. The transmission's shot. It's either pay $4,000 or buy a different truck, which is also $4,000 because anything cheaper is going to break down in 6 months. I can help with that. No. Ryan, no. You're already paying me way too much for errands. I'm not taking more money. Elena was quiet for a moment. What if it's a loan? You pay me back over time. With what interest rate? 0%. That's not a loan, that's charity. It's me helping someone I care about. Her voice softened. Please, let me do this. Ryan sat on his couch, phone pressed to his ear, Noah asleep in the next room. His pride was telling him to refuse. His bank account was telling him he didn't have a choice. Fine, he said, but I'm paying you back, every cent. Whatever makes you feel better. The money showed up in his account the next morning. Ryan paid for the transmission, got his truck back, and tried not to think about how thoroughly tangled up his life had become with Elena's. That weekend, she asked again about meeting Noah. They were at her apartment post-dinner, sitting on the couch with the city spread out below them. Elena had her feet tucked under her, a wine glass in her hand, looking more relaxed than Ryan had ever seen her. I've been thinking, she said, about what you said, about Noah being the only thing that matters. And I want to be part of your life, the real parts, not just the late-night texts and the dinners when you can sneak away. She set down the wine glass. I want to meet your son. Ryan's chest tightened. Why? Because he's important to you, because I want to know all of you, not just the parts you're willing to show me. She reached over, took his hand. I'm not trying to replace anyone. I want to be there. If you'll let me. Ryan looked at their joined hands, at Elena, who ran a billion-dollar company, but looked nervous asking to meet a 2-year-old. At the city lights outside and the mess his life had become, and the fact that somewhere along the way, he'd stopped being able to imagine his days without her in them. Okay, he said. Sunday. Come over for lunch. Nothing fancy. Noah's probably going to throw food at you. Fair warning. Elena smiled, and it lit up her whole face. I'll wear something washable. Sunday morning, Ryan cleaned the apartment like his life depended on it. He scrubbed the bathroom, vacuumed the carpet, hid all the bills and overdue notices in a drawer where Elena wouldn't see them. Noah watched from his high chair, eating cereal and making a mess like it was his job. We're having a visitor today, buddy, Ryan said. A friend of Daddy's. You're going to be good, right? Good, Noah announced, then threw a handful of cereal on the floor to prove he was lying. Elena showed up at noon wearing jeans and a sweater and looking more nervous than Ryan had ever seen her. She had a bag with her, a gift probably, even though he told her not to bring anything. Hi, she said. Hi, come in. The apartment looked tiny with Elena standing in it. She glanced around, at the worn furniture and the toys scattered everywhere and the kitchen that was smaller than her closet, and Ryan waited for her to realize what a mistake this was. Instead, she smiled. It's nice, cozy. That's one word for it. Noah chose that moment to toddle out of his room, stuffed animal clutched in one hand. He stopped when he saw Elena, stared at her with those big brown eyes. Hi, Noah. Elena said, crouching down to his level. I'm Elena. I'm a friend of your dad's. Noah looked at her, looked at Ryan, then walked over to Elena and handed her his stuffed animal. For me? Elena took it carefully. Thank you. What's his name? Bear, Noah said confidently. The stuffed animal was actually a dog. Bear. Good name. Elena looked up at Ryan, and there was something in her expression that made his throat tight. Lunch was chaos. Noah threw spaghetti, knocked over his juice cup, and tried to feed Elena from his plate by shoving food at her mouth. Elena handled it like a pro, laughed when Noah got sauce in her hair, played along when he insisted she needed to share his chicken nuggets, and didn't flinch when he climbed into her lap halfway through the meal. Ryan watched them and felt something shift in his chest. This woman who terrified board members and crushed competitors was sitting on his kitchen floor playing with his son like it was the most natural thing in the world. After lunch, they moved to the living room. Noah brought out every toy he owned and insisted on showing Elena how each one worked. She sat cross-legged on the carpet, asked questions, made the appropriate impressed noises when Noah demonstrated his toy truck's horn. He likes you, Ryan said. Elena looked up, Noah still chattering beside her. I like him. He's wonderful, Ryan. He's a menace. He's two. They're all menaces. She reached over, squeezed Ryan's hand. Thank you for letting me meet him. Noah crashed around 3. 1 minute playing, the next minute face down on the carpet, completely out. Ryan carried him to his crib while Elena cleaned up the toy explosion. When he came back, she was sitting on the couch, looking at a framed photo on the side table. It was from Noah's first birthday, Ryan holding him, both of them covered in cake, both of them smiling. You look happy here, Elena said. I was. I am. Ryan sat beside her. It's just hard sometimes, being everything he needs. You're doing better than you think. She set down the photo. He's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have him. Elena leaned against him, and they sat there in the quiet apartment, Noah snoring in the next room, and for the first time in a long time, Ryan felt like maybe things were going to be okay. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. Ryan ignored it. It rang again. He sighed, pulled it out, answered. Mr. Carter? A man's voice, professional, cold. This is David Chen from Meridian Holdings Legal Department. I need to speak with you about your relationship with Elena Voss. Ryan's blood went cold. He looked at Elena, who'd gone completely still beside him. I don't know what you're talking about, Ryan said. I think you do. We have photographs, Mr. Carter, of you entering and leaving Miss Voss's apartment building multiple times, late at night. A pause. I'm calling as a courtesy to inform you that if this relationship continues, we'll be forced to take action. What kind of action? The kind that protects the company's interests. Ms. Voss is in a very delicate position right now. A scandal could be problematic for everyone involved. The line went dead. Ryan sat there, phone still pressed to his ear, his heart hammering. Elena was watching him, her face pale. What did they say? They know. Your legal department knows. Elena stood, started pacing. David Chen. He's on the board. He's one of the ones trying to push me out. She ran her hands through her hair. They've been looking for ammunition, and now they have it. What does that mean? It means if we don't stop seeing each other, they'll use it against me. They'll paint you as some kind of opportunist. They'll say I'm unfit to run the company because I'm involved with an employee. I'm not an employee. That's not how they'll spin it. Elena stopped pacing, looked at him. Ryan, I'm sorry. I never meant for this to... Don't. Ryan stood, walked over to her. Don't apologize. We knew this was risky. I should have been more careful. We both should have been. He took her hands. What do you want to do? Elena closed her eyes. I don't know. If I end this, if we stop seeing each other, they win. They'll still use it against me, but at least they won't have fresh ammunition. She opened her eyes. But if we keep going, they'll destroy you. They'll dig into your life, find every mistake you've ever made, and use it. They'll come after your job, your custody of Noah, everything. Ryan's jaw tightened. Let them try. You don't understand what these people are capable of. Then explain it to me. Elena pulled away, wrapped her arms around herself. They'll leak stories to the press. They'll claim you're after my money. They'll make your life hell, Ryan. And I can't. Her voice cracked. I can't watch them do that to you. So what, we just stop? Pretend this didn't happen? I don't know. She looked at him, and there were tears in her eyes. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protection. I need you to tell me what you want. I want both. I want you and I want my company, and I want this to not be impossible. She wiped at her eyes, angry at herself for crying. But that's not how the world works. Ryan crossed the room, pulled her into his arms. She resisted for half a second, then collapsed against him, her face buried in his shoulder. We'll figure it out, he said. How? I don't know yet, but we will. Noah started crying in the next room, awake from his nap, probably disoriented and cranky. Ryan let go of Elena reluctantly, went to get his son. By the time he came back, Noah on his hip, Elena had composed herself. The tears were gone, the mask back in place. I should go, she said. Elena, I need to think, figure out our options. She grabbed her bag, stopped at the door. I'm sorry, Ryan, for dragging you into this. You didn't drag me anywhere. I walked in with my eyes open. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'll call you. Then she was gone, and Ryan was left standing in his apartment with Noah, trying to figure out how everything had fallen apart so fast. She didn't call that night, or the next day. Ryan texted her twice and got nothing back. He told himself she needed space, needed time to figure things out. But by Wednesday he was worried, and by Friday he was starting to think maybe she'd decided it wasn't worth the risk. Then Saturday morning, his phone rang. Elena. Hey, he answered. I was starting to think, I need to see you. Can you come to my office? Now? Please. Ryan called Mrs. Chen, dropped Noah off, and drove downtown with his stomach in knots. Elena's assistant led him straight through, and he found her in her office, standing by the windows, looking out at the city. What's going on? Ryan asked. Elena turned. She looked exhausted. They're making their move. David Chen called an emergency board meeting for Monday. He's going to present a motion for my removal as CEO. Can he do that? If he has enough votes, yes. She walked over to her desk, picked up a folder. He sent me this. Their entire case against me, including you. She handed him the folder. Ryan opened it, felt his stomach drop as he read. There were photos. Him leaving her apartment, her car picking him up, the two of them at that restaurant months ago. There were financial records showing the payments she'd made to him. There was a timeline, a narrative, making it all sound sordid and calculated. They're calling you my escort, Elena said flatly. They're implying I've been paying you for services. Ryan closed the folder before he said something he'd regret. That's bullshit. Of course it is. But it doesn't matter. Perception is reality in my world. She sank into her desk chair. My lawyers say I have two options. End the relationship publicly, claim it was a mistake, and try to minimize the damage. Or fight it, which means dragging you and Noah through a media circus while the board tears me apart. What do you want to do? I want to tell them all to go to hell, but I can't. Elena looked up at him. If I fight this, they'll come after you. They'll investigate your finances, your past, your custody arrangement with Noah. They'll find something. They always find something, and they'll use it. I can't let that happen. So you're ending this. I'm trying to protect you. That's not what I asked. Ryan leaned against the desk. What do you want, Elena? Not what's strategic, not what's smart. What do you actually want? She stood, closed the distance between them. I want you. I want to tell David Chen to shove his motion where the sun doesn't shine. I want to stand up in that boardroom and tell them all that what I do in my personal life is none of their damn business. Her voice shook. But I'm scared. I'm scared of losing everything I've built. I'm scared of what they'll do to you. And I'm scared that if I choose you, I'll resent it later. Ryan's chest ached. Then maybe you already have your answer. Ryan, it's okay. I get it. He straightened, moved toward the door. You have a lot to lose. I'm just a guy who delivers your dry cleaning. Makes sense you'd choose the billion-dollar company. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is you asking me to help you figure out what you want when you've already decided. Ryan opened the door. I hope the board meeting goes well. He left before she could respond. Made it to his truck before the anger hit. He slammed his fist against the steering wheel once, twice, then sat there breathing hard and trying not to feel like an idiot for thinking this could work. His phone rang. Elena. He ignored it. She called again. He turned off his phone and drove home. Mrs. Chen took one look at his face and didn't ask questions. Just handed him Noah and patted his shoulder. Ryan spent the rest of the day playing with his son, trying not to check his phone, failing spectacularly at both. By Sunday night, he had 17 missed calls from Elena and 12 texts. He finally read them around midnight after Noah was asleep. "I'm sorry. Please call me. I'm not choosing the company over you. I'm trying to figure out how to have both. Ryan, please, talk to me." The last one came at 11:30. "I love you." I should have said that first. Ryan stared at his phone for a long time. Then he typed back, "I love you too, but I don't know if that's enough." His phone rang 10 seconds later. He answered. "It's enough," Elena said immediately. "It has to be enough." "Then what are we doing? Because from where I'm sitting, you're about to throw me under the bus to save your job." "I'm not—" She took a breath. "You're right. That's what it looked like. That's what I was considering. But I can't do it." "Why not?" "Because I'd rather lose the company than lose you." Ryan sat up in bed. "What?" "I mean it. If it comes down to choosing between my position at Meridian and being with you, I choose you." She laughed, but it sounded like she was crying. "I'm probably going to regret this, but I don't care. Elena, don't make that choice because you feel guilty. I'm not. I'm making it because for the first time in 15 years, I have something in my life that matters more than a board position." Her voice steadied. "Tomorrow, I'm walking into that meeting and I'm telling them the truth. That yes, I'm involved with you. That no, it hasn't affected my ability to do my job. And that if they want to remove me for having a personal life, they can try. They'll crucify you. Probably. But at least I'll go down fighting." A pause. "Will you be there? At the meeting? You want me in the boardroom? I want you beside me. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of being ashamed of the one good thing in my life." She took a breath. "But only if you want to. I won't force you into this." Ryan thought about Noah, about the custody arrangement that was tenuous at best, about everything he could lose if this went sideways. Then he thought about Elena, standing alone in a room full of people who wanted to destroy her. "What time's the meeting?" 10 a.m. "I'll be there." Ryan hung up and sat there in the dark, his heart pounding, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life or the first right decision in years. He couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that boardroom, imagined the faces of people who had more money than he'd see in 10 lifetimes, all of them staring at him like he was something they'd scraped off their shoes. At 6 a.m., he gave up on sleep, made coffee, and checked on Noah. His son was still out cold, one arm flung over his head, completely oblivious to the fact that his father was about to walk into a corporate firing squad. Ryan's phone buzzed, a text from Elena. "Can't sleep either. Thank you for doing this." He typed back, "Haven't done anything yet." "You said yes." That's everything. Ryan showered, shaved, put on the suit Elena had bought him months ago. It still fit perfectly. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the guy staring back. He looked like someone who belonged in a boardroom. He felt like an imposter. Mrs. Chen showed up at 8:30 to watch Noah. She took one look at Ryan and frowned. "Big meeting?" "Something like that." "You look nervous." "I am nervous." She patted his arm. "Then it must be important. Go. Noah and I will be fine." Ryan kissed his son goodbye, promised he'd be back by lunch, and drove downtown with his stomach in knots. The Sterling Tower looked even more intimidating than usual. He parked in the visitor lot, rode the elevator up to the 40th floor, and found Elena's assistant waiting for him. "Mr. Carter, Miss Voss is expecting you." She led him past the reception area, down a hallway he'd never been down before, to a conference room with glass walls and a view that made his head spin. Elena was already there, standing by the windows, wearing a black suit that made her look untouchable. She turned when he walked in, and her whole face changed. "You came." "I said I would." She crossed the room, took his hands. Hers were shaking. "I'm terrified." "Me too." "We don't have to do this. We could still—" "Elena." Ryan squeezed her hands. "We're doing this." She nodded, took a breath. "Okay. The board members will be here in 15 minutes. David Chen is going to present his case first. Then I'll respond. I'm going to tell them the truth, that yes, we're together, and no, it hasn't affected my work. I'll probably get fired anyway, but at least you won't get fired. You don't know that. No, but I know you, and I know you don't go down without a fight. Ryan pulled her closer. So let's fight. Elena kissed him, hard and desperate, like she was trying to memorize the feeling. Then she pulled back, smoothed her suit, and the mask slid back into place. CEO Elena. Untouchable Elena. Stay close to me, she said, no matter what they say. I'm not going anywhere. The board members started arriving at 9:45. Ryan recognized a few faces from news articles, older men and women in expensive suits, carrying leather portfolios, moving with the confidence of people who'd never worried about money a day in their lives. They looked at Ryan like he was a piece of furniture that had been placed in the wrong room. David Chen was the last to arrive. Late 50s, silver hair, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He shook hands with the other board members, ignored Elena completely, and shot Ryan a look that could have stripped paint. Shall we begin? Chen took a seat at the head of the table, opened his portfolio. I assume everyone has reviewed the materials I sent over the weekend. Murmurs of agreement. Elena sat down, Ryan beside her. She'd positioned them at the opposite end of the table from Chen, a physical line in the sand. Good. Chen pulled out the folder Ryan had seen on Saturday. Then you're all aware of why we're here. Ms. Voss has been conducting an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate, in violation of company ethics policies. This relationship has been ongoing for several months, during which time Ms. Voss has used company resources to compensate Mr. Carter for undisclosed services. Ryan's jaw tightened. Elena put a hand on his knee under the table, a silent plea to stay calm. The optics are terrible, Chen continued. If this becomes public, and it will become public, Meridian Holdings will face a media nightmare. Our shareholders will lose confidence. Our competitors will use this to undermine every deal we're negotiating, and Ms. Voss's position as CEO will become untenable. A woman across the table, Margaret something, Ryan couldn't remember her last name, raised her hand. Has Ms. Voss been given an opportunity to respond to these allegations? Of course. That's why we're here. Chen leaned back, folded his hands. Elena, would you like to explain yourself? Elena stood. She didn't need to. No one else had stood. But she did anyway, and suddenly the power dynamic in the room shifted. David's right about one thing, she said. Ryan and I are in a relationship. We have been for several months. Everything else he's implying is bullshit. One of the board members, an older man with glasses, cleared his throat. Language, Ms. Voss? No, I'm not going to sanitize this for your comfort. Elena's voice was steady, controlled. David wants you to believe I've been paying Ryan for sexual favors. The truth is I hired him to run personal errands because I needed help and he needed money. We developed feelings for each other. We tried to keep it private because we knew people like David would twist it into something ugly. And here we are. You admit to using company funds to pay him? Chen asked. I used my personal funds. Ryan has never been on Meridian's payroll. But you met him through company business, at a hospital where Meridian has board representation. I met him because his son was sick, and I happened to be there. This wasn't some calculated seduction, David. It was two people connecting. Chen smiled that cold smile. And you don't see how this reflects poorly on your judgment, how it opens the company up to liability. What liability? I didn't harass him. I didn't coerce him. I asked, he said yes, and we're both adults. Elena planted her hands on the table. The only people making this a problem are the ones in this room who can't accept that I have a personal life. Margaret spoke up again. With all due respect, Elena, the concern isn't that you have a personal life. It's that you've been conducting this relationship in secret while representing yourself as available and unattached at company functions. I never represented myself as anything. I just didn't broadcast my private business. But you see how it looks, another board member said. The secrecy, the payments, the power imbalance. There is no power imbalance. Ryan doesn't work for me. He accepts money from you as payment for services rendered, legal services, that he could walk away from at any time. Chen leaned forward. Could he, though? Or would you cut off the payments, make his life difficult? Ryan stood. He didn't plan to. It just happened. Everyone in the room turned to stare at him. I'm going to stop you right there, Ryan said. His voice came out rougher than he intended. You want to go after Elena? Fine, that's your business. But don't sit there and act like I'm some victim who got manipulated. I knew exactly what I was doing. Mr. Carter, Chen started. No. You don't get to talk now. You've been talking about me like I'm not here, like I'm some prop in your corporate drama. So let me make this real clear. Ryan looked around the table. Elena helped me when I needed it. She didn't have to. She could have walked past me and my son in that hospital and never looked back. But she didn't. She saw someone struggling and she helped. And yeah, we fell for each other. That happens sometimes when two people actually give a damn about each other. This is highly irregular, someone muttered. You want to know about the payments? Fine. She paid me to pick up her dry cleaning, to drop off her car, to do the boring personal stuff she didn't have time for because she was too busy running your company. And she paid me well because she knew I was a single dad barely keeping my head above water. That's not corruption. That's called being a decent human being. Chen's expression had gone cold. Are you finished? Not even close. You want to fire her? Go ahead. She'll land on her feet. She's Elena Voss. But if you think for 1 second that I'm going to let you paint her as some predator who took advantage of me, you're out of your mind. Ryan's hands were shaking. He shoved them in his pockets. We're together. We're not hiding anymore. And if that's a problem for you, then maybe the problem isn't us. He sat down. The room was silent. Elena was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. Margaret cleared her throat. Well, that was illuminating. Chen wasn't smiling anymore. Mr. Carter's loyalty is admirable, but it doesn't change the facts. Elena has compromised her position and the company's reputation. The appropriate course of action is to accept her resignation, effective immediately, and begin the search for new leadership. I'm not resigning, Elena said. Then we'll vote to remove you. You don't have the votes, don't I? Chen looked around the table. All in favor of removing Elena Voss as CEO of Meridian Holdings? 3 hands went up immediately. Chen's and 2 others Ryan didn't recognize. Margaret kept her hands folded. So did the man with glasses. So did the other 4 board members. Chen's smile faltered. Margaret? Thomas? Surely you see the necessity. What I see, Margaret said slowly, is a CEO who's been doing her job exceptionally well for 5 years. Her personal life is her business, David. Unless you can prove it's affected her work, and I don't see any evidence of that in your little folder, I'm not voting to remove her. Thomas nodded. Agreed. This feels like a power play, not a legitimate concern. Chen's face went red. This is about protecting the company. No. Elena's voice cut through the room like a blade. This is about you wanting my job. It has been since the day I got promoted over you. You've been looking for an excuse to take me down and you thought you found it. But here's the thing, David. I'm not going anywhere. The shareholders will revolt when this gets out. Then let them. I'll hold a press conference this afternoon and tell them exactly what happened. That I'm in a relationship with someone I care about. That it has nothing to do with my ability to run this company. And that anyone who has a problem with it can take it up with me directly. Elena straightened her jacket. I'm done hiding. I'm done apologizing for having a life outside these walls. And I'm done letting you use my personal choices as ammunition. Chen stood abruptly. This isn't over. Yeah, it is. Elena smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut. You tried to take me down and you failed. Again. Maybe it's time to accept that you're never going to sit in my chair, David. 2 of the board members who'd voted with Chen stood and followed him out. The door slammed behind them. The remaining board members looked at each other, then at Elena. Margaret stood, extended her hand. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right call. The transparency, I mean. Get ahead of this before it becomes a real problem. Elena shook her hand. Thank you. One by one, the other board members filed out, some offering support, others just nodding politely. Within 10 minutes, the conference room was empty, except for Ryan and Elena. Elena sank into her chair, put her head in her hands. Oh my God. You okay? I don't know. I think I just committed career suicide. Ryan pulled his chair closer, turned her to face him. You stood up for yourself. For us. That's not suicide. That's bravery. 3 board members just walked out. David's going to spend the next week calling in favors, trying to get me removed. And I still have to hold that press conference. She looked up at him. What the hell did we just do? We stopped hiding. I'm terrified. Good. Me too. Ryan kissed her forehead. But at least we're terrified together. Elena laughed, and it came out half sob. You were incredible in there. When you stood up and told them off, I've never seen David Chen look that shocked. Yeah, well, nobody talks about you like that in front of me. My hero. She said it sarcastically, but there was warmth underneath. Ryan's phone buzzed, a text from Mrs. Chen. Noah asking for you. Everything okay? Reality crashed back in. I need to get home. Noah's probably wondering where I am. Go. I have about 100 fires to put out here anyway. Elena stood, straightened her suit. Thank you, Ryan, for everything. We're not done yet. I know, but we survived the board meeting. That's something. Ryan kissed her one more time, then headed for the elevator. His hands were still shaking. His heart was still racing. But underneath the fear was something else, a weird sense of pride. They'd walked into that room together and come out the other side still standing. He made it home by noon. Mrs. Chen handed over Noah, who immediately started babbling about the morning's adventures. Ryan held his son and tried to process what had just happened. He'd stood up in front of a boardroom full of billionaires and told them off. He'd defended Elena like his life depended on it. And somehow, impossibly, it had worked. His phone rang. Elena. Turn on channel 7, she said without preamble. What? Why? Just do it. Ryan put Noah in his high chair, turned on the TV, flipped to channel 7. A news anchor was mid-sentence. Shocking development at Meridian Holdings, where CEO Elena Voss held an impromptu press conference this afternoon addressing rumors about her personal life. The screen cut to Elena standing behind a podium in what looked like Meridian's lobby. She looked composed, professional, nothing like the scared woman from an hour ago. I'm here to address some rumors that have been circulating about my personal life, Elena said. Yes, I am in a relationship. His name is Ryan Carter. He's a single father, a hard worker, and someone I care about deeply. This relationship has not affected my ability to lead Meridian Holdings. It has not compromised any business dealings. It is simply part of my life, and I'm no longer interested in hiding it. The camera flashed. Reporters started shouting questions. Elena held up a hand. I know this is unconventional. I know some people will have opinions about it, but I'm asking for the same respect and privacy that any of you would want in your personal relationships. Ryan is not a story. He's a person, and our relationship is no one's business but our own. More questions. Elena ignored them, stepped away from the podium, and walked out of frame. The news anchor came back on. A surprising admission from one of the country's youngest CEOs. We'll have more on this developing story as Ryan turned off the TV. His phone was already ringing. Elena again. Did you watch it? Yeah. His voice came out rough. You really did it. I really did it. No going back now. A pause. Ryan, things are going to get crazy for a while. The press is going to want to talk to you. They might show up at your apartment, your work, wherever they can find you. Are you ready for that? No, but I'll deal with it. I can have my security team. Elena, I'll be fine. We'll be fine. He looked at Noah, who was happily destroying a banana. Just be careful, okay? Chen's not going to let this go. I know, but I'm not backing down. Not now. She took a breath. I should go. I have about 50 calls to return, but I'll text you later. Yeah, please. I love you, Ryan. I love you too. She hung up. Ryan sat there on his couch, his son making a mess 3 feet away, and tried to wrap his head around the fact that his face was probably about to be all over the news. Elena Voss's mystery boyfriend, the single dad who'd somehow captured the heart of a billionaire. The story broke online within an hour. Ryan didn't look. He couldn't bring himself to read the comments. But Elena texted him screenshots. Some were supportive. Most were vicious. People calling him a gold digger, saying he was using Elena for money, speculating about how long until she realized her mistake and dumped him. By evening, there were 3 news vans parked outside his apartment building. Ryan called Elena from Noah's room, keeping his voice low so he wouldn't wake his son. There are reporters outside. I know. I sent a car. It's parked in the back alley. The driver will take you to my place. Elena, I can't just... Please, I don't want you dealing with that alone. Pack a bag for you and Noah. Stay here tonight. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. Ryan looked at his sleeping son, thought about the cameras outside, the questions they'd shout if he tried to leave. Okay, give me 20 minutes. He packed quickly. Clothes for him and Noah, diapers, Noah's favorite stuffed animal. He texted Mrs. Chen to let her know he'd be gone for a few days. Then he wrapped Noah in a blanket, held him close, and took the back stairs down to the alley. The driver was waiting, exactly where Elena said he'd be. Ryan climbed into the car, Noah still asleep against his chest, and they pulled away before anyone noticed. Elena's apartment felt different at night, quieter, more intimate. She opened the door before Ryan could knock, took one look at him holding Noah, and her whole face softened. Come in, the guest room's ready. Ryan put Noah down in the guest bed, a massive thing with sheets that probably cost more than Ryan's monthly rent. His son didn't even stir. Ryan tucked the blanket around him, kissed his forehead, and found Elena in the kitchen pouring 2 glasses of wine. How bad is it? Ryan asked. Online? Pretty bad. But my PR team is handling it. They're putting out statements, correcting false information, threatening legal action against anyone who crosses the line. She handed him a glass. The board is split. Half of them think I did the right thing. The other half think I'm insane. David Chen is calling for another vote, but he doesn't have the numbers. Yet, Elena agreed. She took a sip of wine. But I meant what I said. I'm not hiding anymore. Whatever happens, happens. Ryan set down his glass, pulled her into his arms. She came willingly, pressing her face against his chest. I'm sorry, she said, for dragging you into this mess. Stop apologizing. We're in this together, remember? I know, but it's different for me. I chose this life, you didn't. I chose you. That's the same thing. Elena pulled back, looked up at him. What if it gets worse? What if they come after Noah? Then we deal with it. But we don't run. We don't hide. Ryan cupped her face. You stood in front of the entire world today and said you weren't ashamed of us. I'm not going to let you regret that. I don't regret it. I'm just scared. Me too. But being scared doesn't mean we made the wrong choice. They stood there in her kitchen, holding each other while the city lights twinkled outside and Noah slept peacefully in the next room. Ryan thought about everything that had happened, the board meeting, the press conference, the news vans outside his apartment. It should have felt overwhelming. It should have felt like too much. Instead, it felt like the first honest breath he'd taken in months. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You made a mistake getting involved with her. People like you don't belong in her world. Walk away before you get hurt. Ryan showed it to Elena. She read it, her expression hardening. That's David's style, intimidation. She took the phone, blocked the number. Ignore it. There's going to be more, isn't there? Probably, but my lawyers are documenting everything. If he crosses a line, we'll bury him. Ryan's phone buzzed again. Different number. How much is she paying you? We'll double it for an exclusive interview. He blocked that one too. By the time they went to bed, he'd received 17 messages from reporters, 3 from numbers that wouldn't identify themselves, and 1 from his supervisor at the warehouse asking if he was planning to come back to work. Ryan lay in Elena's bed, their bed now, he supposed, and stared at the ceiling. Elena was curled against him, her breathing slow and steady. She'd fallen asleep an hour ago, exhausted from the day's chaos. Ryan couldn't shut his brain off. His phone lit up on the nightstand. Another unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him look. This is Amanda. We need to talk. Ryan's heart stopped. Amanda. Noah's mother, the woman who'd walked out 2 years ago and never looked back. He sat up carefully, trying not to wake Elena, and typed back, How did you get this number? I saw you on the news. You're with Elena Voss? Seriously? What do you want, Amanda? I want to see my son. Ryan stared at the message, his pulse pounding in his ears. No. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not after everything. You left. You don't get to come back because you saw me on TV. He's my son too, Ryan. I have rights. You gave up those rights when you walked out. I never signed anything. Check with a lawyer if you don't believe me. Ryan wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, he stood, walked to the living room so he wouldn't wake Elena or Noah, and called Amanda. She answered on the second ring. Ryan, what the hell are you doing? I told you, I want to see Noah. Her voice was different than he remembered, harder. You're all over the news, dating a billionaire, living in her fancy apartment. I figure if you're doing that well, Noah must be doing well too. This isn't about Noah. This is about you seeing an opportunity. Maybe. Or maybe I realized I made a mistake walking away. A pause. Either way, I'm his mother. I want to see him. After 2 years, you don't get to just show up and play mom when it's convenient. I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you I'm coming. Next week. And if you try to stop me, I'll get a lawyer. We'll see what a judge thinks about you keeping my son from me. The line went dead. Ryan stood there in Elena's living room, his hands shaking, feeling like the floor had just dropped out from under him. Amanda was back. After 2 years of silence, she was back, and she wanted Noah. He thought about waking Elena, telling her what had just happened, but she was already dealing with so much. The board, the press, the constant attacks on her character. He couldn't add this to her plate. Not yet. So he sat on the couch in the dark, his phone in his hand, and tried to figure out how he was going to protect his son from a woman who'd already broken him once. Ryan didn't sleep. He sat on Elena's couch until the sky started to lighten, until he heard Noah stirring in the guest room, his son's soft babbling cutting through the silence. He got up, moved on autopilot, and found Noah standing in the crib with his hands on the rail, smiling like everything in the world was exactly as it should be. Dada! Up! Ryan lifted him out, held him close, breathed in that smell that was pure Noah, baby shampoo and something sweet he couldn't name. His son wrapped small arms around his neck, and Ryan felt his chest crack open. Love you, buddy, he whispered. Love you, Noah parroted, then squirmed to get down, already distracted by the unfamiliar room. Elena appeared in the doorway, wearing one of Ryan's t-shirts and looking rumpled and half asleep. Everything okay? Ryan wanted to tell her. Wanted to unload the whole thing about Amanda and the texts and the threat hanging over everything, but Elena looked exhausted, and he could see the tension in her shoulders even now, and he couldn't do it. Yeah, just early morning with a toddler. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I'll make coffee. They had breakfast together. Noah in a high chair Elena's assistant had somehow procured overnight, sitting between them at the kitchen island. Noah ate pancakes and made a mess and kept calling Elena Lena because he couldn't quite manage the full name. Elena looked at the kid like he'd just handed her the world. Ryan's phone kept buzzing. Messages from reporters, a missed call from Jerry at the warehouse, 3 texts from numbers he didn't recognize. He ignored all of it and focused on his son. After breakfast, Elena had to go into the office. Damage control, she said, meetings with the PR team and the board members who were still on her side. Ryan stayed at the apartment with Noah, trying to pretend everything was normal. They played with blocks, they watched cartoons, they had lunch, and then Amanda called again. Ryan put Noah down for his nap and answered in the hallway, his voice low. What do you want now? I want to know when I can see him. You can't. Ryan, don't make this harder than it has to be. I'm his mother. I have rights. You have nothing. You walked out. You left a note. You didn't call, didn't text, didn't send a birthday card. You don't get to show up now and demand anything. I made a mistake. I was young and scared and I wasn't ready. Neither was I, but I stayed. Amanda was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was colder. I talked to a lawyer this morning. He says I have a case. Says the courts don't look kindly on fathers who keep mothers away from their children without cause. Ryan's grip tightened on the phone. You're threatening me? I'm telling you how it's going to go. Either you let me see Noah voluntarily, or I file for custody and we do this the hard way. Your choice. Go ahead and file. I'll bury you in court. With what money? Oh, right. Your billionaire girlfriend. Amanda laughed, and it made Ryan's skin crawl. You think a judge is going to like that? You shacking up with some rich woman, using her money to fight Noah's actual mother? That's going to look great. Ryan wanted to scream. Wanted to tell her exactly what he thought of her, and her threats, and her sudden maternal instincts that had appeared the second she saw him on TV, but he kept his voice steady. Stay away from us, Amanda. I mean it. I'll see you next week, Ryan, whether you like it or not. She hung up. Ryan stood there in the hallway, his heart hammering, feeling like the walls were closing in. He'd fought so hard to build a stable life for Noah, to keep them afloat. And now everything was unraveling, the press, the board, and now Amanda crawling out of whatever hole she'd been hiding in. His phone rang again. Different number. Ryan almost didn't answer, but something made him check the caller ID first. Jerry, his supervisor from the warehouse. Ryan answered. "Hey, Jerry." "Carter, we need to talk." "Yeah, I know I've been out. It's not about the days, it's about the news." Jerry sighed. "Look, I'm going to level with you. Corporate called. They saw the stories. They're not happy." Ryan's stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means they don't want the publicity. Having you here, it's bringing attention. Reporters showed up this morning asking questions, and corporate doesn't like attention." Another sigh. "I'm sorry, man, but I've been told to let you go." "You're firing me?" "I don't have a choice. They're calling it downsizing. You'll get 2 weeks severance." "Jerry, I need this job. I have a kid." "I know, and I'm sorry, but my hands are tied." A pause. "For what it's worth, you were a good worker. This isn't about you. It's about the circus following you around." The line went dead. Ryan stood there, phone in hand, and felt the last piece of stability slide out from under him. No job. Amanda threatening custody. The press camped outside his apartment, and Elena in the middle of her own war with the board. He wanted to punch something, wanted to scream, wanted to wake up and discover the last 6 months had been a fever dream. Instead, he checked on Noah. Still asleep, still perfect, still oblivious. And then he went to find Elena's liquor cabinet. Elena came home at 7 to find Ryan on the couch, half a bottle of whiskey on the coffee table, staring at nothing. She took one look at him and dropped her bag. "What happened?" "I got fired. Amanda's back. She wants custody of Noah." The words came out flat, emotionless. "So that's fun." Elena sat beside him, took the whiskey bottle, set it aside. "Start from the beginning." So he told her. About Amanda's texts, the threats, the lawyer, the phone call from Jerry, all of it spilling out in a rush that left him feeling hollow. When he finished, Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood, pulled out her phone, and made a call. "Michael, it's Elena. I need you to clear your schedule tomorrow morning. I have a custody case for you to take." A pause. "Yes, I'm aware of your retainer. Just do it." She hung up, turned to Ryan. "Michael Torres, best family lawyer in the state. He's ruthless, and he doesn't lose. He'll handle Amanda." "Elena, I can't afford—" "I'm paying for it. And before you argue, let me make something very clear." She knelt in front of him, took his hands. "You are not alone in this. Noah is not alone. Amanda wants a fight? We'll give her one. But she's not taking your son." Ryan's throat closed. "I can't keep taking your money. It's not charity. It's partnership. You stood beside me in that boardroom. You defended me to my board. You've been dealing with reporters and threats and all of this chaos because of me. So let me do this, please." "What if the judge sees it the way Amanda said? Me using your money, living here? Then we'll deal with it. But Ryan, listen to me." Elena squeezed his hands. "Amanda left. She abandoned Noah. No judge is going to reward that. And if they try, we'll appeal. We'll fight as long as we have to. She said she was coming next week." "Good. That gives us time to prepare. Michael will file an emergency custody order, establish that you've been the sole parent for 2 years, document her abandonment. By the time she shows up, we'll be ready." Ryan pulled her into his lap, buried his face in her neck. "I'm scared. What if I lose him?" "You won't. I won't let that happen." Elena wrapped her arms around him. "We're going to get through this. All of it. I promise." They stayed like that until Noah woke up crying from his nap. Ryan pulled himself together, went to his son, changed his diaper, and got him a snack. Noah didn't know anything was wrong. To him, it was just another day. Ryan wished he could see the world that simply. Michael Torres showed up at Elena's apartment the next morning at 8 a.m. sharp. He was mid-40s, expensive suit, carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than Ryan used to make in a month. He shook Ryan's hand with a grip that meant business. "Tell me everything," Michael said, sitting at Elena's dining table with a legal pad. "Start with when Amanda left." Ryan went through it all again. The note, the silence, the 2 years of raising Noah alone. Michael took notes, asked pointed questions, didn't show any emotion. When Ryan finished, Michael set down his pen. Okay, here's what we're dealing with. Amanda has biological parental rights. The fact that she left doesn't automatically terminate those rights. She'd have to have them legally severed, and that hasn't happened. So technically, she does have standing to see Noah. Ryan's chest tightened. So she could... Let me finish. She has standing, but that doesn't mean she'll win. We established that you've been the primary caregiver for 2 years, that Noah has a stable home with you, that Amanda made no attempt to contact you or provide support during that time. We get documentation, bills, medical records, everything showing you've been the sole parent. I have all that. Good. Then we file for sole legal custody. We argue that Amanda abandoned Noah and that contact with her now would be disruptive and potentially harmful. We ask for a psychological evaluation of both parents, and we make it clear that if she wants to be part of Noah's life, it has to be on your terms, with supervision and a gradual introduction. What are our chances? Michael leaned back. Honestly, pretty good. Judges don't like parents who disappear and then reappear when it's convenient. But Amanda's lawyer is going to argue that she was young, scared, suffering from postpartum depression, whatever narrative makes her look sympathetic. So we need to be prepared for a fight. How long will this take? Depends on if she actually files or if this is just a scare tactic. If she files, we're looking at months, maybe longer. Michael closed his legal pad. But here's the thing, most custody cases settle before trial. Amanda's lawyer is going to look at the facts, realize she doesn't have much of a case, and probably advise her to negotiate. We offer supervised visitation, maybe some phone calls, and we keep primary custody with you. Ryan nodded, trying to process. And the fact that I'm living here with Elena? It's not ideal optics, but it's not illegal. You're in a relationship. Noah has a stable home. As long as Elena's not doing anything that puts Noah at risk, which she's obviously not, it shouldn't be a major issue. Michael glanced at Elena. That said, if this goes to court, they'll scrutinize everything. Your finances, your relationship, your living situation. Be prepared for that. I am, Elena said. Whatever they need to see, we'll show them. Michael stood, packed up his briefcase. I'll start drafting the custody filing today. In the meantime, document everything. If Amanda contacts you, save the messages. If she shows up, don't engage without a witness present. And Ryan, he looked serious. Don't let her get in your head. She's counting on you being scared enough to cave. Don't give her that. After Michael left, Ryan felt marginally better. At least they had a plan. At least he wasn't facing this alone. But that afternoon, things got worse. Ryan's phone exploded with notifications around 2 p.m. Text messages, missed calls, social media alerts. He finally opened Twitter and felt his stomach drop. Someone had leaked his entire financial history, bank statements, credit card debt, the truck loan, the hospital bills, everything. It was all posted on some gossip site with the headline, Elena Voss's broke boyfriend, a closer look at Ryan Carter's finances. The article was brutal. It detailed every late payment, every collection notice, every time Ryan had been $1 away from broke. It painted him as a desperate loser who'd latched onto Elena for her money. The comments were even worse. Ryan showed Elena, his hands shaking. She read it, her expression going cold. David Chen. This has his fingerprints all over it. How would he get this information? He has connections everywhere. Banks, credit agencies, you name it. Elena pulled out her phone. I'm calling my lawyers. This is illegal. Financial records aren't public information. It doesn't matter if it's illegal. It's already out there. Everyone's seen it. Then we'll sue whoever leaked it. We'll make an example out of them. Elena's jaw was tight. They want to come after you? Fine. But they're going to learn that was a mistake. Ryan's phone rang, an unknown number. He answered without thinking. Ryan Carter? A woman's voice, professional. Yeah? This is Jennifer Walsh from Family Services. I'm calling regarding a complaint we received about your son Noah's living situation. Ryan's blood went cold. What complaint? We received an anonymous tip that Noah is being cared for in an unstable environment. I'm required to follow up. I'll need to schedule a home visit to assess the situation. This is bullshit. My son is fine. I'm sure he is, Mr. Carter, but I still need to conduct the visit. Are you available tomorrow afternoon? Ryan wanted to refuse, wanted to tell her exactly where she could shove her home visit, but if he didn't cooperate, it would look worse. Fine. What time? 2 p.m. What's your current address? Ryan gave her Elena's address, hung up, and threw his phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. Elena picked it up, checked for damage. Family Services? Anonymous complaint. They're coming tomorrow to inspect the home. Ryan's voice was shaking. This is Amanda, or Chen, or both of them. They're trying to make me look unfit. They won't succeed. This apartment is spotless. Noah is healthy and happy. They'll see that. What if they don't? What if they decide I'm not fit because I'm living with you, because I lost my job, because my finances are a mess? Elena grabbed his shoulders. Ryan, look at me. They're not taking Noah. We won't let them. Tomorrow we'll show them that Noah has everything he needs, a safe home, people who love him. That's what matters. What if it's not enough? It will be. It has to be. But that night, lying in bed with Elena asleep beside him, Ryan couldn't shake the fear. Everything was falling apart. His job, his privacy, his custody of Noah. All because he'd fallen for someone whose life existed on a different planet. He thought about calling it off, about taking Noah and disappearing somewhere quiet, where no one knew Elena Voss or David Chen, or any of these people who seemed determined to destroy him. But then he looked at Elena, at the way she'd fought for him, stood beside him, even when it cost her everything, and he knew he couldn't walk away. They were in this together, for better or worse. The social worker arrived at 2 p.m. exactly. Jennifer Walsh was mid-50s, graying hair, a clipboard, and an expression that gave nothing away. She walked through Elena's apartment like she was inspecting a crime scene, taking notes, asking questions. This is where Noah sleeps? She stood in the guest room. Yes. Ryan tried to keep his voice steady. He has his own room, his own bed. And where do you sleep, Mr. Carter? With Elena in her room. I see. More notes. How long have you been living here? About a week. We've been together for months, but I only moved in recently because of the press outside my apartment. The press. Yes. Jennifer looked at him. That must be stressful for Noah. He's 2. He doesn't understand what's happening. But he can sense stress. Children are perceptive. She walked back to the living room, looked around. This is quite a change from your previous residence. Noah's happy here. Is he? Or is he confused by the sudden shift in his environment? Ryan's jaw tightened. He's fine. He likes Elena. He's adjusting. Jennifer made more notes. And Ms. Voss, where is she today? At work. She works long hours, I imagine. Yes, but when she's here, she spends time with Noah. She reads to him, plays with him. How much time would you say you spend caring for Noah versus Ms. Voss? Ryan saw where this was going. I'm his father. I'm the primary caregiver. Elena helps, but Noah is my responsibility. And yet you're unemployed currently? I was let go because of the media attention, not because of job performance. I see. Jennifer closed her notepad. Mr. Carter, I'm going to be honest with you. The complaint we received raised concerns about stability, about whether Noah's needs are being prioritized given the current circumstances in your life. I don't see any immediate danger, but I will be making a recommendation that we schedule a follow-up visit in 30 days to reassess. A follow-up visit. Standard procedure when there are concerns about a child's welfare. Ryan felt like he'd been punched. My son's welfare isn't in question. Someone is trying to sabotage me. That may be true, but I still have to follow protocol. Jennifer headed for the door. 30 days, Mr. Carter. I suggest you use that time to establish a more permanent living situation and stable employment. It'll reflect better in my report. She left. Ryan stood in the middle of Elena's pristine apartment and felt the walls closing in. Elena came home 2 hours later to find Ryan packing. Not everything, just clothes for him and Noah, a few toys, essentials. What are you doing? We can't stay here. The social worker basically said this place is the problem, that Noah needs stability. Ryan shoved another shirt into the bag. So I'm taking him back to our apartment. Deal with the reporters. Figure it out. Ryan, stop. Elena took the bag from him. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking plenty clear. Noah is the only thing that matters. If staying here puts him at risk, we leave. And go where? Back to that apartment with news vans outside, where Amanda can show up anytime she wants? Elena set down the bag. Running doesn't solve this. Neither does staying. They're building a case against me, Elena. Chen, Amanda, whoever filed that complaint, they want me to look unstable, and living here isn't helping. So what? We just give them what they want? Let them win? This isn't about winning. It's about protecting my son. Ryan's voice cracked. I can't lose him. I won't. Elena pulled him close, held him while he fell apart. When he finally stopped shaking, she pulled back and looked him in the eye. We're not giving up. We're not running. We're going to fight smarter. She took a breath. Michael said we need to show stability? Fine. We'll show them stability. You need a job? I'll make some calls. We need to prove this is a good environment for Noah. We'll document everything. Meals, playtime, bedtime routines. We'll turn this into the most stable household they've ever seen. And if it's not enough, then we appeal. We fight in court. We do whatever it takes. Elena cupped his face. I'm not letting them take Noah. And I'm not letting them break us. So stop packing and start fighting. Ryan looked at her, this woman who'd turned her entire life upside down for him, and felt something shift. She was right. Running didn't solve anything. They had to stand their ground. Okay, he said, we fight. That night, Elena made calls. To business contacts, to board members still loyal to her, to anyone who might have a lead on employment for Ryan. By midnight, she had 3 interviews lined up for the next week. Ryan spent the evening documenting everything Michael had asked for: receipts, medical records, photos of Noah at different stages of his life. Building the case that he'd been there, that he'd never left. His phone buzzed. A text from Amanda. I'll be there Sunday, 2 p.m. I expect to see my son. Ryan showed Elena. She read it, her expression hardening. Don't respond. Let Michael handle it. She's not going to just go away. No, but we're not giving her an inch. Elena set down the phone. Sunday, we'll have Michael here. If she shows up, she deals with him, not you. What if she brings the police, claims I'm keeping her from Noah? Then we show them the custody filing. We show them 2 years of abandonment. We make it clear that she has no legal standing until a court says otherwise. Ryan nodded, but the fear didn't go away. Amanda was unpredictable. She'd walked out once. Who knew what she'd do now? Friday morning, another story broke. This one was worse. Someone had dug up every mistake Ryan had ever made and put it online. A fight he'd gotten into in college. A speeding ticket from 3 years ago. The fact that he'd dropped out of community college after 1 semester. Even the time he'd been late on child support payments to Amanda before she disappeared, conveniently leaving out the part where she'd left and stopped cashing the checks. The article painted him as violent, irresponsible, barely educated. The comments called him trash, said Elena was slumming, said Noah deserved better than a father like that. Ryan read it all and felt himself shutting down. This was what they did. They took your life and twisted it until nothing looked right, until you didn't even recognize yourself. Elena found him in the bathroom, sitting on the floor, phone in hand. Don't read the comments. Too late. She sat beside him, took the phone away. They're trying to break you. Don't let them. Maybe they're right. Maybe Noah does deserve better. Stop. You're a good father. You've given that kid everything you have. Some lies on the internet don't change that. It's not lies, though. I did get in that fight. I did drop out of school. I'm not... His voice broke. I'm not good enough for this. For you. For any of it. Elena grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Listen to me. You're exactly what Noah needs. You show up every day. You love him. You fight for him. That's what matters. Not some bullshit article written by people who don't know you. I'm drowning, Elena. Every time I think we're getting ahead, something else hits. Amanda, the job, the social worker. I can't keep up. You're not alone. Stop acting like you are. She stood, pulled him up with her. Come on, we're going out. Elena, no arguments. We've been hiding in this apartment for days. We're going out. With Noah. Like a normal family. And if reporters follow us, let them. Let them see that we're not afraid. Ryan wanted to argue, wanted to stay in the apartment where it was safe, but Elena was already pulling him toward the door, and maybe she was right. Maybe they needed to stop hiding. They took Noah to the park. It was a Saturday afternoon, warm and sunny, and Noah ran straight for the playground like he'd been caged for weeks. Ryan chased after him, helped him climb the slide, caught him at the bottom. Elena sat on a bench nearby, watching them with a smile that looked almost peaceful. A few people recognized them, took photos, whispered to each other. But no one approached. No one shouted questions. It was almost normal. Noah played for an hour, wearing himself out, and then they walked to a cafe and got ice cream. Noah got chocolate all over his face. Elena laughed and wiped it off with a napkin. Ryan felt something in his chest ease. This was what mattered. This moment. Not the headlines or the threats or the people trying to tear them apart. They walked back to the car holding hands, Noah between them, chattering about the playground and the ice cream and the dog he'd seen. For just a few minutes, everything felt okay. Then Ryan's phone rang. Michael Torres. "Ryan, we have a problem." Ryan's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Amanda filed for emergency custody this morning. She's claiming you're an unfit parent due to your relationship with Elena and your current living situation. The hearing is Monday morning." "Monday? That's 2 days from now." "I know, it's aggressive, but we'll be ready. Can you be at my office tomorrow at 9 a.m.? We need to prep." "Yeah, we'll be there." Ryan hung up and looked at Elena. She saw his expression and her face went pale. "What is it?" "Amanda filed for custody. Hearing's Monday." Elena's jaw set. "Then we fight." But as they drove back to the apartment, Noah falling asleep in his car seat, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in. That no matter how hard they fought, they were running out of time. Sunday morning, Ryan sat in Michael Torres's office with a stack of documents in front of him that represented 2 years of his life. Medical records showing every checkup, every fever, every time Noah had needed him. Receipts for diapers and formula and clothes, photos documenting birthdays and random Tuesdays, and all the moments Amanda had missed. Michael spread them across his desk like evidence in a murder trial. "This is good. This is exactly what we need." "Will it be enough?" Elena asked from the chair beside Ryan. "It should be. Amanda has no documentation of her own, no proof she tried to contact Noah, provide support, anything. Her claim is going to rest entirely on biology and regret." Michael leaned back. "But here's what you need to understand. Judges don't like parents who disappear and reappear. It sets a bad precedent. So our strategy is simple. We demonstrate that Ryan has been the consistent, stable presence in Noah's life, and that disrupting that now would harm the child." "What about Elena?" Ryan asked. "Amanda's lawyer is going to bring her up." "Let them. Elena's presence in Noah's life has been positive. She's provided stability, a safe home, additional support. Unless they can prove she's a danger to Noah, which they can't, it's not a liability." Michael looked at Elena. "That said, be prepared for them to attack your character. Your wealth, your company drama, the board situation. They'll try to paint you as a distraction." "I can handle it," Elena said. Michael turned back to Ryan. "Tomorrow, you're going to be on the stand. Amanda's lawyer is going to ask you hard questions about your finances, about losing your job, about your relationship. They're going to try to make you look unstable. Don't lose your temper. Don't get defensive. Just answer honestly and stick to the facts." Ryan nodded, his mouth dry. "What if I say the wrong thing?" "You won't. Just remember, you're fighting for your son. That's all this is about. Not Amanda, not the press, not anyone else." "Noah." Michael started packing up the documents. "Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." Rest was impossible. Ryan lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling while Elena slept beside him. He kept replaying worst-case scenarios. The judge deciding he was unfit. Amanda walking out with Noah, his son screaming for him while strangers carried him away. At 3 a.m., he gave up on sleep and went to check on Noah. His son was sprawled in the guest bed, covers kicked off, one hand clutching his stuffed animal. Ryan stood there watching him breathe and felt his chest crack open. "I won't let them take you," he whispered. "I promise." Noah stirred but didn't wake. Ryan pulled the blanket back over him and stayed there until the sky started to lighten. Monday morning arrived too fast. Ryan put on the suit Elena had bought him, the one that made him look like someone who had his life together. Noah was staying with Mrs. Chen for the day. She'd insisted, said she wouldn't take no for an answer, and Ryan was grateful because he couldn't bring his son to watch this. The courthouse was downtown, all marble and authority. Ryan's hands were shaking as they walked through security. Elena took his hand and squeezed. "We've got this. What if we don't? Then we appeal. But we're going to win. I can feel it." Ryan wished he had her certainty. They met Michael outside the courtroom. He had his game face on. All business, no emotion. Amanda's here with her lawyer. Don't engage with her. Don't even look at her if you can help it. What's her lawyer like? Kenneth Moore. He's good. He's going to come at you hard, but we're better. Michael straightened his tie. Remember what we talked about. Stay calm. Stick to the facts. You're going to be fine. The courtroom was smaller than Ryan expected. Wood paneling, uncomfortable chairs, fluorescent lights that made everything look washed out. Amanda sat at a table on the left with a man in an expensive suit, Kenneth Moore, presumably. She looked different. Thinner. Her hair was longer. She wore a dress that made her look professional and put together. She glanced at Ryan, and something flickered in her eyes. Regret, maybe, or calculation. He couldn't tell. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s, gray hair, an expression that gave nothing away. We're here for the matter of Carter versus Carter, emergency custody petition. Mr. Moore, you filed this motion. Let's hear your argument. Kenneth Moore stood, and Ryan immediately understood why Michael had called him good. He moved like someone who'd done this 1,000 times, confident and smooth. Your Honor, my client Amanda Carter is here today because she's deeply concerned about her son Noah's welfare. 2 years ago, Ms. Carter made the difficult decision to step back from parenting due to mental health struggles she was experiencing postpartum. She takes full responsibility for that choice and has spent the last 2 years getting the help she needed. Ryan's jaw tightened. Mental health struggles. That was a convenient rewrite of the note that said, "I can't do this." Moore continued. Recently, Ms. Carter learned that her son's father, Ryan Carter, has become involved in a highly publicized relationship with billionaire Elena Voss. Mr. Carter has lost his employment, moved into Ms. Voss's residence, and has been subjected to intense media scrutiny. Ms. Carter believes this environment is unstable and potentially harmful to Noah, who is only 2 years old. And what is Ms. Carter seeking? The judge asked. Full custody, Your Honor, with the possibility of supervised visitation for Mr. Carter once a stable living situation is established. Ryan felt like he'd been punched. Full custody. She wasn't asking to share. She wanted to take Noah completely. The judge turned to Michael. Mr. Torres, your response? Michael stood and his voice was ice. Your Honor, this is nothing more than an opportunistic attempt by a parent who abandoned her child to capitalize on recent media attention. Amanda Carter didn't have mental health struggles. She had a change of heart. She left a note, walked out, and made 0 attempts to contact her son for 2 years. No phone calls, no birthday cards, no child support, nothing. Moore jumped in. My client was suffering from severe postpartum depression, which she's conveniently unable to document, Michael shot back. No hospital records, no doctor's notes, no evidence of treatment, just a claim made 2 years after the fact when it became advantageous to make it. The judge held up a hand. Gentlemen, you'll both have opportunities to present your cases. Let's proceed methodically. Mr. Moore, call your first witness. Moore called Amanda to the stand. She walked up looking nervous and vulnerable, exactly the image she wanted to project. She swore to tell the truth and sat down. Ms. Carter, can you describe your relationship with your son before you left? Amanda's voice was soft, practiced. I loved him. I do love him. But after he was born, I was overwhelmed. I was young, we didn't have much money, and Ryan was working all the time. I started having dark thoughts, scary thoughts. I knew I needed help, but I was ashamed to ask for it. So you left? I thought it was the right thing to do. I thought Noah would be better off without me while I got myself together. She wiped at her eyes. It was the hardest decision I've ever made. Ryan watched her performance and felt sick. She was good. She sounded genuine. A jury would have eaten it up. Moore walked her through the next 2 years, therapy she claimed to have attended, the progress she'd made, the moment she saw Ryan on the news and realized she needed to step up. It was a beautiful story. It was also complete fiction. Ms. Carter, why are you concerned about Noah's current living situation? Because Ryan is living with a woman he barely knows in an environment that's constantly under media scrutiny. I saw the stories online, the financial records, the attacks. That's not stable. That's not safe for a 2-year-old. And if you were granted custody, where would Noah live? With me. I have an apartment, a job, a support system. I can give him the stability he needs. Michael stood for cross-examination, and his expression was surgical. Ms. Carter, you claim you left due to postpartum depression. Can you provide any medical documentation of diagnosis or treatment? Amanda hesitated. I saw a therapist. It was private. Name of the therapist? I don't remember. It was 2 years ago. You don't remember the name of the therapist who helped you through what you're describing as the darkest period of your life? It was a difficult time. I wasn't keeping records. I see. And during these 2 years of treatment and recovery, did you ever attempt to contact Noah? Send a card, a gift, anything? I thought it was better to give him space. Space. For 2 years, Mike. Michael's voice was sharp. Did you provide any financial support during this time? Ryan never asked for any. That's not what I asked. Did you provide support? No. Did you attempt to arrange visitation? No. Did you inform Ryan or any family court that you intended to return to Noah's life? No, but I was getting myself ready. Yes or no, Ms. Carter? No. Michael walked back to his table, picked up a piece of paper. I have here the note you left for Ryan when you walked out. Would you like me to read it? Amanda's face went pale. That's private. It's evidence. Your Honor, may I? The judge nodded. Michael read it aloud, and Ryan heard it again for the first time in 2 years. I can't do this. I'm sorry. 6 words. Does this sound like someone suffering from postpartum depression seeking help? Michael asked. Or does it sound like someone who made a choice and walked away? I was sick. You were absent. For 2 years. While Ryan raised your son alone. While he worked multiple jobs, dealt with medical emergencies, and built the stable life Noah has now. And the moment you saw Ryan in the news with someone successful, you decided you wanted back in. That's not concern for Noah. That's opportunism. Moore objected. The judge sustained it. But the damage was done. Ryan could see doubt creeping into Amanda's expression. Michael called Ryan to the stand next. Ryan's hands were shaking as he swore in, but he forced himself to stay calm. Mr. Carter, tell us about the morning Amanda left. Ryan took a breath. I woke up and she was gone. There was a note on the counter. Noah was 6 months old, crying in his crib. I tried calling her. She wouldn't answer. I tried texting. Nothing. After a week, I stopped trying. And what did you do? I took care of my son. I figured out how to do it alone. Ryan's voice steadied. I learned to change diapers with one hand while making bottles. I sang to him when he wouldn't sleep. I took him to every doctor's appointment, every checkup. I was there when he said his first word, when he took his first steps. For everything. Has Amanda attempted to contact you during these 2 years? Not once, until she saw me on the news. And how is Noah doing now? He's happy. He's healthy. He's surrounded by people who love him. Michael sat down. Kenneth Moore stood for cross-examination, and Ryan braced himself. Mr. Carter, you've recently lost your job. Is that correct? Yes? And you're currently unemployed? I have interviews lined up. But currently you have no income? Not from employment, no. And you're living in Ms. Voss's apartment? Yes. Doesn't that concern you, that you're financially dependent on someone you've been dating for only a few months? Elena isn't supporting me. She's helping us through a difficult period. A difficult period that includes media harassment, financial instability, and a complete upheaval of Noah's routine. Noah's routine hasn't changed. He still gets up at the same time, eats the same foods, plays with the same toys. The only thing that's changed is the address and the presence of a wealthy stranger in his life. Elena's not a stranger. Noah loves her. Moore pulled out photos. Screenshots from gossip sites showing Ryan leaving Elena's building late at night, months ago. These are from before you moved in. You were already spending nights away from Noah, weren't you? I was with a babysitter, Mrs. Chen, an elderly neighbor, not Noah's mother, not family. Ryan's jaw tightened. Mrs. Chen loves Noah like he's her own grandson. She's been there for us since the beginning. But she's not his mother. Amanda is his mother, and she's here now, ready to provide the stable home Noah deserves. She left him. Ryan's voice cracked. She walked out when he was 6 months old and never looked back. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who showed up every single day. That's what Noah deserves. Someone who doesn't quit when it gets hard. The judge called for a recess. Ryan stepped down, his hand shaking, and Elena met him in the hallway. She wrapped her arms around him, and he let himself collapse into her for just a moment. "You did good," she whispered. "I lost my temper. You were honest. That's what matters." Michael joined them, looking serious. "The judge is going to want to hear from Elena. Are you ready?" Elena nodded. "Let's do it." They went back in. Elena took the stand, and Ryan watched her transform into CEO Elena, composed, unshakable, every word carefully chosen. Moore went after her immediately. "Ms. Voss, how long have you known Mr. Carter?" "About 6 months." "And you're in a romantic relationship with him?" "Yes." "Isn't it true that you initially paid him for services, personal errands?" "I hired him for help with tasks I didn't have time for." "Yes." "And when did this professional relationship become romantic?" "When we realized we cared about each other." Moore smiled like he'd caught her. "So you went from employer to girlfriend. Don't you see how that creates a power imbalance? How it might make Mr. Carter feel obligated to you?" "Ryan has never been obligated to me. He's with me because he wants to be. Or because you're financing his life. I'm helping someone I care about through a difficult time. That's what people do when they love each other." Love. Moore said it like a dirty word. "Ms. Voss, you run a multi-billion-dollar company. Your life is constantly in the public eye. Don't you think that's an unstable environment for a 2-year-old child?" "My professional life is separate from my personal life. When I'm home, I'm present. I read to Noah. I play with him. I'm learning what it means to be part of his world. But you can't protect him from the media, the photographers, the gossip. No one can completely shield a child from the world. But we can give him a foundation of love and stability so he knows he's safe. That's what Ryan has done. That's what we're doing together." Moore tried to rattle her, but Elena didn't break. She answered every question calmly, didn't take the bait, and by the end, Ryan could see the lawyer's frustration. Michael called Mrs. Chen as their final witness. She walked into the courtroom in her best dress, her cane clicking on the floor, and Ryan felt a surge of affection for this woman who'd been there when no one else was. Michael asked her about Noah, and Mrs. Chen's face lit up. "That boy is sunshine. He's happy, healthy, full of energy. Ryan is a wonderful father, the best I've ever seen. Have you noticed any negative changes since Miss Voss entered Noah's life?" "Negative? No. Ryan is happier, less stressed. Noah has more people loving him. That's only good." Moore tried to suggest Mrs. Chen was biased, too elderly to properly care for a toddler, but she shut him down with the kind of steel that made Ryan want to cheer. "I've raised 4 children and 7 grandchildren," she said. "I know what good parenting looks like, and Ryan Carter is doing it right." The judge called both lawyers forward for closing arguments. Moore went first, painting Amanda as a reformed mother seeking redemption. Michael countered with facts: 2 years of abandonment versus 2 years of devoted parenting. Then the judge leaned back and looked at both sides. "I've heard enough. Here's my ruling." Ryan's heart stopped. "Ms. Carter, your claim of postpartum depression might have merit if you'd sought help, maintained contact, or shown any indication during the past 2 years that you intended to return to Noah's life. You didn't. You left completely, and only reappeared when Mr. Carter became a public figure. That tells me this is about opportunity, not parenting." Amanda's lawyer started to object, but the judge held up a hand. "Mr. Carter, you've demonstrated consistent, devoted parenting for 2 years. You've been the only parent Noah has known. While your current circumstances are unconventional, I see no evidence that they're harmful to the child. In fact, Noah appears to be thriving." Ryan could barely breathe. "Therefore, I'm denying the petition for emergency custody. Full custody remains with Ryan Carter. Ms. Carter, if you wish to pursue visitation rights, you'll need to file a proper motion and demonstrate sustained commitment to rebuilding a relationship with Noah. That will not happen overnight." The gavel came down. It was over. Ryan sat there in stunned silence. Elena grabbed his hand. Michael was smiling. Across the room, Amanda was crying, her lawyer trying to console her. They won. They actually won. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Michael handled them while Ryan and Elena pushed through to the car. They didn't speak until they were safely inside, doors locked, driving away. Then Ryan broke down. He pressed his face against Elena's shoulder and sobbed, relief and terror and exhaustion all pouring out at once. She held him, stroking his hair, whispering that it was okay, that Noah was safe, that everything was going to be okay. When he finally pulled himself together, Elena was smiling through her own tears. "You did it. We did it. No, this was you. You fought for your son, and you won." Ryan kissed her, hard and desperate and grateful. "Thank you for everything. Always." They picked up Noah from Mrs. Chen's apartment. His son ran to him, arms outstretched, and Ryan caught him and held him so tight Noah squeaked in protest. He buried his face in Noah's neck and breathed him in and felt his whole world click back into place. "Dada, down!" Ryan set him down, watched him toddle back to his toys. Mrs. Chen was watching with tears in her eyes. "You won?" "We won." She hugged him, this tiny woman who'd been his lifeline. "I knew you would. I told you. You're a good father." That evening, back at Elena's apartment, Ryan gave Noah a bath and read him 3 stories and held him in the rocking chair until he fell asleep. Then he stood there for another 10 minutes, just watching his son breathe, feeling grateful for every single moment. Elena found him there and wrapped her arms around him from behind. "You okay?" "Yeah, I really am." They put Noah to bed and collapsed on the couch together. Ryan pulled up his phone and saw he had 53 missed calls and twice as many texts. He ignored all of them and looked at Elena instead. "What happens now?" "Now?" Elena smiled. "Now we figure out the rest." But the rest came faster than they expected. Tuesday morning, Ryan woke up to 17 job offers. Not interviews, actual offers. Elena's calls had worked. By Wednesday, he'd accepted a position at a logistics company owned by one of her former business school classmates. It paid better than the warehouse, had reasonable hours, and didn't involve anyone asking about his relationship status. Thursday, David Chen resigned from Meridian's board. The official story was health reasons. The reality was that someone had leaked proof that he'd orchestrated the financial records leak, the anonymous family services complaint, and had been funneling information to Amanda's lawyer. Elena's team had documented everything, and Chen had been given a choice: resign quietly or face criminal charges. He resigned. Friday, the press moved on to someone else's drama. Ryan's name disappeared from the gossip sites. Life started to feel normal again. But normal looked different now. Ryan realized he'd been living in survival mode for so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to just exist without fear, to wake up without wondering how he'd pay rent, to play with his son without checking his phone every 5 minutes for bad news. Elena noticed the change. "You seem lighter." They were in the kitchen making dinner. She was chopping vegetables while Ryan handled the pasta, and Noah banged on a pot with a wooden spoon. "I feel lighter, like I can finally breathe." Ryan glanced at her. "I've been thinking about something, though." "What's that?" "This apartment. It's yours, and it's beautiful. But it's not ours." Elena set down the knife. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we should find a place together, something that's not yours or mine, but ours. A fresh start." "You want to move in together?" "Officially?" "We're already living together. I just want it to feel like home for all of us." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, and it was that real smile he loved. "Okay, let's do it." They spent the next 3 weeks looking at places. Nothing too flashy. Ryan wasn't ready to live in another penthouse. But something with space for Noah to run around, a decent kitchen, and enough rooms that they didn't all feel like they were on top of each other. They found it in a neighborhood 40 minutes from Elena's office. A house, not an apartment. 3 bedrooms, a backyard with a swing set, hardwood floors that needed refinishing, and a kitchen that was probably original to 1987. It needed work. It wasn't perfect. But the first time Noah ran through the empty rooms, his laughter echoing off the walls, Ryan knew this was it. They closed on the house in October. Moved in on a Saturday with help from Mrs. Chen, Michael Torres, and surprisingly, several of Elena's board members who'd become actual friends. Ryan painted Noah's room blue with clouds on the ceiling. Elena insisted on a garden, even though neither of them knew how to garden. They argued about furniture, about paint colors, about whether they needed a dining room table that fancy. It felt real. It felt permanent. It felt like a life they were building together instead of one they were just surviving. 3 months after the custody hearing, Amanda reached out. Not through lawyers this time. Just a simple email asking if they could talk. Ryan was wary, but Elena convinced him to hear her out. They met at a coffee shop. Amanda looked different again, softer somehow, less desperate. She ordered a latte and didn't touch it. "I'm not here to fight," she said, "or to ask for anything. I just wanted to apologize." Ryan waited. "I was wrong. About leaving. About coming back the way I did. About all of it." She stared at her coffee cup. "I was young and scared, and I made a terrible choice. And then when I saw you on TV, I panicked. I thought if I didn't act immediately, I'd lose my chance forever. But I wasn't thinking about Noah. I was thinking about myself." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to hear it, and because I want you to know that I'm getting actual help now. Real therapy. Not the fake story I told in court." She looked up. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but if there's ever a chance, years from now, when Noah's older, if there's a chance I could be part of his life, even in a small way, I'd like that. On your terms. When you're ready." Ryan studied her. She seemed genuine, but he'd been burned before. "I can't promise anything. Noah is happy. He's stable. I'm not disrupting that." "I understand. But if you're serious about this, if you get help, stay consistent, prove you're committed, maybe someday we can talk about supervised visits when he's older, when he can understand." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. That's more than I deserve." "Yeah, it is." They didn't hug. They didn't exchange phone numbers. But when Ryan left that coffee shop, he felt something shift. Amanda wasn't a threat anymore. She was just a person who'd made mistakes and was trying to fix them. He could understand that. He told Elena about it that night, after Noah was in bed. They were sitting on their back porch, in their house, watching fireflies and drinking beer from bottles that sweated in the summer heat. "How do you feel about it?" Elena asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to tell her to never contact us again, but part of me thinks Noah deserves a chance to know his mother if she can get her act together." "That's generous of you. Or stupid." "No. Generous." Elena leaned against him. "You're giving her a chance to be better. That's important." Ryan kissed the top of her head. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You just finally noticed." 6 months after they moved into the house, Elena called an emergency board meeting. Ryan didn't know what it was about. She'd been secretive, which usually meant something big was coming. He waited at home with Noah, trying not to worry. When Elena came home 3 hours later, she looked exhausted but satisfied. "I quit." Ryan nearly dropped the beer he'd just opened. "You what?" "I stepped down as CEO, effective immediately." "Elena? Let me finish." She sat beside him on the couch. "I've been thinking about this for months. The board drama, the constant battles, the realization that I was spending 18 hours a day fighting people who wanted me to fail. And for what? A title? Money I don't need? You love that company. I loved building it. I don't love maintaining it. There's a difference." She took his hand. "I want a life, Ryan. Not just a career. I want to be here when Noah takes his first day of kindergarten. I want to plant that garden we keep talking about. I want to wake up without checking my phone 12 times before breakfast." "What are you going to do?" Elena smiled, and it was that real smile he'd fallen in love with. "I have some ideas. Smaller projects, consulting, maybe philanthropy. Things that matter but don't consume me." She squeezed his hand. "I'm done trying to prove I belong in rooms full of people who'll never accept me. I'd rather build something new." Ryan pulled her into his arms. "I'm proud of you." "Yeah?" "Yeah." That night, they sat on the back porch again, Elena's head on his shoulder, and talked about the future. Real plans this time, not just survival strategies. They talked about maybe expanding the house, about Noah starting preschool next year, about the consulting firm Elena wanted to start that would help small businesses owned by single parents get funding and support. "We could call it Second Chances," Elena said. "That's a little on the nose." "I'm okay with that." Ryan kissed her. "I love you." "I love you too." A year after everything fell apart, Ryan stood in his backyard watching Noah chase butterflies while Elena worked in the garden she'd finally learned to maintain. The house still needed work. The The bathroom fixtures were original to the Reagan administration, and the air conditioning wheezed like an old man. But it was theirs. They'd built this. Mrs. Chen came over every Sunday for dinner. Michael Torres and his wife joined them once a month. Even a few of Elena's former board members stopped by occasionally, drawn by Elena's cooking and Noah's infectious energy. Amanda sent occasional emails asking about Noah. Ryan responded with brief updates and photos. She never pushed for more. She kept her distance and focused on getting herself together. Someday, maybe, there would be room for her in Noah's life. But not yet. Ryan had learned something through all of this, that strength wasn't about never falling apart. It was about getting back up when you did. He'd fallen apart plenty. He doubted himself, questioned everything, wondered if he was enough. But he'd kept showing up, for Noah, for Elena, for himself. And that mattered. Elena walked over, dirt on her hands, looking happier than he'd ever seen her. Dinner's almost ready. What are we having? Something that won't give us food poisoning. That's as good as my guarantees get. Ryan laughed and pulled her close, not caring about the dirt. Noah ran over and wrapped his arms around both their legs, wedging himself between them. Group hug, Noah announced. They stood there as their messy backyard, in their imperfect house, covered in dirt and sweat and happiness, and Ryan felt something settle in his chest. This was it. This was what he'd been fighting for, not perfection, not some fantasy where everything went smoothly, just this moment, this family they'd built from scratch and refused to let anyone tear apart. Noah squirmed free and ran off chasing another butterfly. Elena kissed Ryan's cheek and headed back inside to check on dinner. And Ryan stood there in the fading sunlight, thinking about how far they'd come. From a hospital emergency room at 3 a.m. to this backyard on a summer evening. From a single father barely keeping his head above water to a man who'd found partnership with someone who saw him as an equal. From survival mode to actually living. It hadn't been smooth. It hadn't been easy. There were still hard days. Noah threw tantrums. The house constantly needed repairs. Elena occasionally missed the boardroom, and Ryan occasionally missed the simplicity of life before everything got complicated. But they had each other. They had Noah. They had this messy, imperfect, beautiful life they'd fought for. And that was enough. Inside, Elena called that dinner was ready. Noah came running, streaked with grass stains and joy. Ryan scooped him up, carried him inside, and thought about all the moments that had led here. The note on the kitchen counter, the phone call from Elena, the board meeting, the custody hearing. Each one a test they'd somehow passed. They sat down to dinner together. Elena's cooking was improving, but still required optimism. And Noah babbled about his day while Elena and Ryan exchanged glances across the table. The kind of glances that said, "We made it. Against all odds, we actually made it." After dinner, they gave Noah a bath together. Elena managed to get more water on herself than on Noah, which made the kid laugh hysterically. They read him 3 stories, tucked him in, and stood in his doorway watching him fight sleep. "He's getting so big," Elena whispered. "I know. I'm glad I get to see it." "Me too." They closed the door softly and walked back to their bedroom, in their house, in their life. Elena changed into one of Ryan's old t-shirts. He pulled her close, and they lay there in the dark, exhausted and content. "Ryan? Yeah? Thank you for letting me be part of this. Thank you for fighting for it." She kissed him, and it tasted like home. Like second chances and new beginnings, and all the things they'd almost lost but managed to keep. Outside, the neighborhood settled into night. Inside, their small family slept peacefully. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Ryan Carter finally stopped running from his life and started living it. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but honestly, with someone beside him who'd seen him at his worst and stayed anyway. That was love. Not the romantic comedy version where everything clicked into place, but the real version, messy and complicated and worth every single fight. They'd survived the storm. They'd come out the other side bruised but intact, and they'd built something that mattered, not just for themselves, but for Noah, who would grow up knowing that family wasn't about biology or money or perfect circumstances. It was about showing up, about staying, about choosing each other every single day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. And as Ryan drifted off to sleep with Elena's breathing steady beside him, He thought about that first night in the hospital, about Elena stopping to help a stranger and his sick son, about one small act of kindness that had changed everything. He'd spent so long believing he had to do everything alone, that asking for help was weakness, that he had to be perfect to be enough. But Elena had taught him something different, that vulnerability wasn't weakness, that accepting help didn't make you less, that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was let someone in. And Noah, his beautiful, chaotic, perfect son, would grow up knowing that too, would see his father and Elena building a partnership based on mutual respect and support, would learn that love wasn't about one person having all the answers, but about two people figuring it out together. That was the life they were building, imperfect and real and theirs. And it was more than enough.